Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the Roundabout Cast
No,
episode.
no, no. We're not the Roundabout Cast.
Yeah,
Welcome
we
to the Always
are.
Open Podcast. I'm Barbara.
I'm. I don't. I didn't even hear what podcast you said. Who the fuck is Barbara?
Wheeler doesn't even know what podcast we are.
Yeah.
No, we're the Roundabout Podcast. You didn't let me finish, and we're on episode 16. Can you believe we've done 15 of these?
I know. What's
That's
chapter
as many
16 of
as-
One Piece?
That
If we were a
would
One
be
Piece manga, what would we be?
that would be in Syrup Village, I think.
No, it's Buggy.
Well, damn.
Well, damn.
I'm your host, Willer.
I am Bradley, head chef of the SS Roundabout cast.
And I'm Joe, lead cabin boy, second in command of senior cabin boy.
I like Joe's better.
I really hate how y'all do the really dumb gimmick and then y'all have this golden gimmick and why do you need both? So bogged down.
Let's forget it exists.
Oh Jesus. I like how you're second in command in charge of the scene. It's so confusing. Shit.
What are we talking about this week?
I'll tell you what we're talking about this week. Is there anything I should bring up before we go into it?
No, nothing's important.
Yeah, you're right. Let's talk about Invader Zim because that is.
Oh my
important.
God.
Special guest Tyler turned 25.
Oh yeah. I guess yeah. We'll talk about that at the end in the free time.
Yeah.
Congratulations to our special guest.
Who hasn't shown up in 13 episodes?
We miss you, buddy.
He keeps saying he's gonna show up. Y'all prepare your butts if anyone remembers him. It's been eons. Yeah, let's talk about Invader Zim, the movie. Enter the Florpus?
Yes,
Yeah.
which I had been excited for so many years, and it was better than I hoped it would be.
You knew this was coming out because this just kind of dropped for me, and I was like, oh, well, hello.
Yeah, they announced, they had kind of rebooted the comic series several years ago, and then that did really well, and then they announced they were making a movie, but there was no real news about it for a year or two until this was about to come out, and then it's like, oh shit, it's really happening.
Well, that must have been just cool for you. The being surprised by it was also equally cool because I haven't thought of Invader Zim in a long time. Actually, the last time I thought about it in years, you guys were bringing it up for some random reason.
Yeah. I was really excited though because for the whole time that I was aware there was going to be a movie, I expected it to be the same kind of, I guess, art style and same quality as the show, which I really enjoyed the show. It was one of my favorite cartoons when I was little, but I think the movie is just even so much better that I was just really satisfied.
I feel like art style, they nailed it. It was just way more quality.
No, I agree. I was kind of, so Netflix did a thing where where they got two different Nickelodeon shows to do not a reboot, but a kind of revival movie, Rocko's Modern Life and Invader Zim, and I feel like Invader Zim really killed it compared to the Rocko's Modern Life one.
I didn't know that Rocko's Modern Life came out.
Yeah.
There you go.
It flew relatively under the radar compared to Invader Zim.
It had zero memes compared to the hot new meme from Invader Zim.
Yeah,
Scientifically impossible.
Mm-hmm. The Rocko's Modern Life one, it just was I was never a really big fan of Rocko's Modern Life, but this one was just oh, we're gonna do a meta thing about this movie, and I think if you do that for your reboot immediately, it's kind of it's really stale, and it really doesn't have any meaning to it. If you look at 21 Jump Street versus 22 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street is great because you already had 21 Jump Street, which can be on its own. But Vader Zim felt like another episode that was longer in the series,
Should I watch, on a side note, should I watch 22? Because I haven't seen it yet. Is it better?
Welcome to 22 Jump Street cast.
Yeah.
I think 21 is better, but I think 22 is still a really good sequel
Okay.
to it.
Anyways, Zim, right. Yeah. So, like you said, this feels like a episode but longer. Um, I agree, and that's actually kind of a problem I had it with the end. But let's get there when we get there. Uh, I like the meta joke of Zim has been on the toilet for a year in real time, but it's also like why he's disappeared in our perception of time for a long time as well.
Yeah, and I think they kind of did this purposefully because they knew there would be a lot of people watching this movie who hadn't necessarily watched the show.
Or watching the entire
Um,
series. Like
so-
I have,
That's me.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the entire series.
Yeah. So since Zim was gone for so long, there's a lot of what feels like and is exposition speech, but I think because he was so long, since he was gone for so long
There you go.
in the context of the movie, I think it at least makes some sense for the characters to be saying like, "Oh yeah, Zim, remember him?"
It also makes sense for him doing something that stupid, like sitting on a toilet and planning for a year and
Yeah, 'cause
forgetting
it's-
half of his plan.
It's totally what he would do.
Yeah.
yeah.
Seeing gross fat Dib was horrendous though. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's,
Post time skip did.
and speaking of like, this is 100% a Dib movie. I felt like this movie was all about him in my mind.
Yeah. Well, Dib's in more episodes than Zim is in the series.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There
Dib
are
is the
there
main
are
character.
episodes without Zim.
Yeah, there's some episodes that he just doesn't even show up, or maybe he shows up for like a minute in it.
Yeah.
Well, there's got to be episodes where Dib doesn't show up as well.
Yeah. Oh
Well,
yeah, for
yeah.
sure. There are episodes where like Zim goes into space and like there's one in particular I remember where he's in the battle arena or stuff. It's one of my favorite episodes because it's like my favorite part of Invader Zim is when Zim like has to mellow out and just like be an actual person for like a hot second.
Yeah.
Like I always think that's funny.
I was hoping that there would be more of that this movie. I was hoping this would be more about Zim than Dib, even though I think Dib is like a quote unquote better character.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna need to see some facts on who's more present, Joe. I need it on my desk by tomorrow at 5.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll dig it up for you.
Here's something I wanted to throw out about the movie. Kind of in relation to the show. The show itself, one thing that, like I said, it was one of my favorite cartoons when I was little. But like one thing that had always kind of left me wanting more is that as many dozens of episodes as there were, you could probably count on one hand the number of episodes that advanced like the plot or the characters in any meaningful way.
Yeah, it's like modern cartoons these days. They will have a good pace of filler and character building to plot progression episodes.
Yeah. This movie, I think, was extremely satisfying for me because it looked at both Zim and Dib. It looked at their characters and it's like, okay, like for the inciting incident for this movie, what's like the core of these characters? Like what are their main motivations? What do they want most? And they hit whatever that was for both of these characters. Because like for Zim, it's clear that everyone of his species has like this cult-like admiration for their leaders, and they believe that the leaders also love them. And throughout the entire series, it's clear that Zim truly believes the tallest are going to come to help him,
Yeah.
but he finds out they aren't. And as an inciting incident, that is like the most devastating thing that could happen to Zim.
I really liked his depression montage afterwards. Yeah, that was like a really
Yeah.
good
His
moment.
change
It was him
too.
mellowing out for the movie, like Joe said.
Yeah.
That being said, the ending of this is so blank slate. Even the tallest could somehow feasibly come back, and the only big difference is now that there's a big fish monster as Dib's second dad. That's like the lasting effect here.
Yeah, I think maybe they didn't want to rule out the series being totally done, even though this kind of felt
Yeah.
like a
Well,
let's finish it off.
I guess that's what like I was surprised at. I was like, I thought this movie would be the last time I would see these characters, and I thought it'd be the perfect chance to close off all their stories. But even Dib, who has like a lot of character moments this movie, his dad in the end still doesn't fully believe him about all the things that he has extremely proven right and just
I actually think that's what makes the movie.
Really?
I think that's extremely important to the movie that Dib's dad at the end still does not believe this stuff happened.
Damn, that is my fundamental flaw with the movie. Explain why you think that.
Zim's inciting incident. For Dib, it's kind of the same thing it always was in the series, that he desperately wants to prove that these supernatural things, specifically Zim, exist. And we even kind of get to learn why in the movie when he's in jail. Like why he obsesses over this so hard, because he thinks if humanity saw that these amazing things existed in the universe, they would just stop worrying about the little things.
I thought that was a really good motivation.
Yeah. And so throughout the movie and also throughout the series, we just get these moments where Dib desperately wants his dad to believe him and have his back on these things. And he says this one line in the movie that is echoed at a different part in the movie where he's like, I wish just for once you would have my back. And so this is really hurting Dib throughout the movie, that his dad doesn't believe these things. And a big reason it hurts is because he thinks his dad is not proud of him. But one of my favorite parts of the movie is when he says, I'm going to prove these things are real to you so you will be proud of me. And his dad says, I'm always proud of you. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, he's always proud of him. And that was already good to me.
That was good. But man,
And I liked it even better because I think it would be the easy route for him to say, oh, I'm always proud of you. And then to have him be like, oh, Dib was right all along. Now I'm like actually really proud of you.
I think also like kind of thinking of a more like trying to piece it together to a more real life perspective. Like Dib's dad not really believing in the supernatural or what's going on, or like that's like Dib's obsession. That's very relatable to like when you're a kid and you're obsessed about this one thing, like Pokemon or whatever, and you're like really into it, but your parent just doesn't get it, and you feel like it's like it brings you down in their eyes to them.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a way. It's just another way of like showing, like, no, it doesn't. Like, you can like, I don't understand why you enjoy this, but that doesn't make me think less of you. Like, it's just.
That's a good point that I hadn't thought about. That's a really good way to kind of liken Dib to a real child. I think if I had to sum it up, I'd say that it's not important for Dib's dad to believe these things. The core message and importance is that, like, it doesn't matter. Like, he's going to be proud of Dib no matter what, even if he thinks his son is crazy.
He's just like, that's what you like, and I'm going to let you do it. I don't get it, but I'm going to let you do your own thing. I think that's kind of like the big character moment for the two of them, more than the dad finally realizing that the things are real.
Yeah.
Okay, fair. But I feel like I wouldn't have minded if the second half of the equation also didn't really have the finality I wanted. Because in the end, Zim is still Zim. He still believes the tallest are coming because he sees like the broken up message. He's like, oh no, everything's fine. He still teleported the Earth to make them proud. In my eyes, this movie would have been perfect. You could even not have the dad believe in the end, but if Zim had to team up with Dib to take down the tallest down a peg or something.
Yeah, that is a good point.
And then having Zim rebel against them and then becoming his own kind of warlord of his own puts him in a similar position, but advances his character like I would have liked.
Yeah, I think Zim had a really good inciting incident, but after that, I don't think we did a whole lot with his character.
His character very much falls off as soon as like Dib's incident happens.
Yeah, the second half of the movie is explicitly Dib, his dad, and Gab, who is fantastic.
Yeah.
One last thing I wanted to bring up on my end is, coming into this movie, I was worried, like, how does the comedy of the TV show that basically, in my eyes, started LOL's random humor, how would that hold up in 2019? Because in my mind, even watching old clips, I was like, the voice acting and the dialogue and just how into it the characters are makes this still funny. It's still a good execution of that kind of humor, even if that kind of humor can be painful at times. I thought they did a really good job, with the exception of Gurr. Looking back on it, like
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
single thing about Gurr is, he's got his cute
Gurr-
moments, but like every once in a while, he's just like, oh my gosh, shut the
Gurr-
fuck up, Gurr.
Yeah, Gurr's the most outdated character in that show for sure.
I'd
Yeah.
say. This would have
Yeah.
also been a good chance to kind of update his humor a little bit, but he stayed
Yeah.
firmly in his roots.
Yeah, outside of that, I thought this movie was just like genuine clever
I
humor.
mean, the opening itself with the punchline of "I'm 12 years old."
Jesus Christ, that was so... Yeah, no, I totally agree. Outside of Gurr, like, this movie was hilarious consistently.
and the dad like meteoriting himself down the earth and then like kamehamehaing the entire.
I
Professor
believe
Membrane is a badass.
we watched this movie. Well, it was your guys' second time, but I was watching it the first time with you guys. And I was just like, I couldn't believe what I was watching there for some of that ending.
Oh, it was
It
great.
was nuts.
I was too. I was just like, what?
What? Why? How?
Yeah. I also really like you mentioned them before, but like the fish clone, man, like I really enjoyed him. I don't know what it was about him, but I just thought he was so funny every time he showed up, and just how
He definitely
He-
grew on me at the end.
yeah, he is a more updated version of Gurr in my opinion, and what Gurr was.
Yeah, okay, I could see that.
But his is just so much more focused and it's much more of like a satire. And it's just funnier to think that like that's who Zim thinks is Dib's dad. Like it's just another layer to the humor. I feel in the pudding.
Yeah,
I
all the pudding.
And the thing I liked about him is that in the first half of the movie, he started out as just kind of this joke, like, oh, it's gonna be this little trap that Gaz and Dib are gonna have to figure out, and then he's not really gonna be relevant. But at the end of the movie, he's like the pivot of a really intense scene where it's like, oh god, what is he gonna do? Is he gonna save the Earth or go with Zim? So that was really cool.
Great movie. That is my official statement.
If there's one more thing I want to point out, there was this line that I really only got on the second watch through, where I kind of talked about it a second ago, where Dib is like, Dad, I just wish for once he would have my back. And then, like, at the end of the movie, right before Dr. Membrane falls down and does his Kamehameha, he's like, don't worry, son, I have your back.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh.
Cute.
The one thing I wanted to bring up that I think really, it's more of a point, but something that really sells Invader Zim to me is the way that Dib and Zim interact with each other, and that they are basically written like best friends, but more hateful towards each other than most people.
Their relationship is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
And both of their voice actors are so into it. I love Zim's voice actor so much.
Hell yeah.
I like
Yeah.
when he's like, "Oh, Minnie Moose, I can't ever be mad at you." Like his change in tone is so perfect, and Dib just yelling at Zim is always fun.
yeah, but like I love their dynamic because you can definitely see whenever you look at them, it's like, if Zim was a regular boy who just lived down the street, they'd probably be best friends, like running around doing dumb shit.
That's
and
what I
kind of
wanted.
what makes it.
I wanted this movie to bring them together because I feel like
Yeah.
I'm sure the show did that sometimes, but like in an actual
Oh,
really
yeah, there's-
plot relevant sense.
I think there's one or two episodes. There's one in particular I remember where like they were handcuffed to each other and they were like in an alien prison. They're like, all right, we have to get out of this. And it's a pretty good episode because they're both very. Dib's intelligent. Zim is just knows how to make things.
yeah.
But no, I think the way that they're written has always been incredibly clever and incredibly organic for like boys that age.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I don't know. I've always loved their dynamic.
It's
Anyway,
a good movie.
it is a good movie. You should go watch
4
it.
out of 5.
Yeah. Also, very pretty. We forgot to mention that.
Very
Incredibly-
what?
It's very pretty.
Very pretty.
Very pretty.
Yeah, though there was some scenes, especially like with some of the events in the end of the movie, where it just looks gorgeous.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go watch it. It's on Netflix. Have fun.
Yeah. Damn.
All right.
All right, don't give it up, Bradley.
Don't give it up, Bradley.
Dreamin'. Is that really the name we're going with?
I don't know.
Okay, four kids lives on, I guess. Uh,
All hail 4 kids.
hey Bradley, how much One Piece did you read this week?
Yeah, I was very satisfied. Last week, I only did half a volume, which granted, I think we got some really good discussion out of it.
That was only half a volume. Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
this week I did a little over 2 volumes.
Yo, we're gonna be
I
here for
think
3 hours, dog.
I think
I'll be-
chapter
I'll be-
count wise, I left off like chapter count. What? Okay, let me fuck. I'm so excited for One Piece, I can't talk. Chapter count wise, I cut off this week around the halfway point of Alabasta.
Awesome.
So we have some very fun stuff. I purposefully stopped right before I think the final battle was about to start.
We'll see. We'll see when we get there. But why don't we start from the beginning, Bradley? What are some of the thoughts you had while reading?
Man, from what I read this week, in general, like this is just the best combat I've seen in One Piece so far. It's just so cool in every way.
A lot of flashy attacks. It's really showing the enjoyment of One Piece fights at some of its best.
Yeah, and then I think there's a lot of moments this week where I think we talk a lot about like where characters are going, what they're doing, like why we think a character taking a certain action works well. This week, I liked a lot of the character stuff, but it was more subtle than a character doing this thing or a character interacting with this character.
I think it's safe to say that Luffy had some emotional mastermind trademark moments.
Hell yeah. A lot of the stuff I liked with the characters this week came down to like their word choices when talking, because I think their word choices say a lot about who they are, which we'll get to those as we go along.
Yeah.
But I guess we can jump into it.
Yeah.
If there's no other housekeeping before we start.
I don't believe we do.
Yeah. So we're starting this week at chapter 152.
152 or 162?
Oh my god, 162. Yeah, 162, where they are just about to start crossing the desert, headed for I think their destination at this point was Yuba, because they thought that's where the rebel base was.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's hot in the desert, guys.
That is a bold claim.
To kind of give a we're gonna go chronologically like we usually do, and I'm just kind of flipping through the pages as I go. We see them making their way across the desert. Obviously, they're running out of water, and I think the big events in this chapter are these birds that steal their equipment, and also some combat with a giant
Lizard
gator,
boy.
or the Sandora dragon.
Mhm.
And so, man, I gotta talk about this chapter.
You gotta.
I think we get like a really interesting contrast in how Luffy treats two different kinds of animals in this chapter. And I think it says a lot about him, because we will regularly see Luffy take down giant monsters without any hesitation, and half the time it isn't even because they attacked him first. And we get an instance of this in this chapter where they totally slaughter the Sandora dragon, this giant alligator thing.
With a triple attack.
Yeah, and granted, it was actually after them, but the reason I find it interesting is because in the same chapter, we see Luffy like beg Chopper to save these quote unquote dead birds, even though their time and resources are in really short supply. And I think Luffy kind of treats animals the same way he treats people, where he feels a duty to help ones who can't help themselves, and he feels a lot less sympathy towards those he sees as predators compared to like others. Like both people and animals who would use their power to harass others, I think he just doesn't have a lot of patience for them.
It could also be that the lizard has more meat on its bones. But I like your theory too.
Yeah, I mean, yours is probably the real one.
But both are true.
Yeah. But I actually think there's even more text that kind of plays into this, because if it was a lesser animal or one that Luffy sympathized with more, instead of just slaughtering it right off the bat, he might have ran away or subdued it. And even Usopp points this out. When they destroy the Sandora dragon, he's astounded and he has tears in his eyes. He's like, could they just have scared it off? And I think I like Oda's not gonna put something in a chapter for no reason. And I think having Luffy show how he treats these two different varieties of animals, I think it's intended and purposeful.
Yeah, that seems really intentional.
Well, it also goes back to if you go back to Whiskey Peak, um, it's almost like a small flaw that Luffy has is that if he sees people like weak or injured, his first reaction is to help them out. So if you go back to Whiskey Peak, he sees I think it's the millions or the billions, they're all defeated by Zoro, and they were the residents of there. And Luffy immediately gets angry at Zoro and fights him. Um, and then as soon as like the other Baroque Works members comes, he realizes like, oh, these are the bad guys, and immediately fights them back.
Yeah,
You know,
you brought that up as well when we were talking about it back then.
yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, very.
But I just think it just shows more because it's just still consistent with Luffy's character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, I really like it. The rest of this chapter isn't a whole lot of notable stuff. It's just kind of advancing
To
our
Yuba.
characters towards their destination. And then they come up on Yuba, which is being hit by a sandstorm.
Looks giant.
And I just realized that, holy shit, this sandstorm might not be a natural one.
Whoa,
knowing what I do
Bradley.
now.
Big
Bradley.
Knowing,
The government can't make sandstorms.
knowing what I do now, I'm kind of like, wow. We pretty much meet Toto right off the bat, which
What a sweetheart.
God, I love this man. And he recognizes Vivi, and then we move into a God tier flashback arc. And
What else is new?
basically, this flashback is getting a look into why Vivi and her family are so beloved by the kingdom, or at least why they were,
Right.
and how Vivi became the great person she is.
God, Vivi was so cute in this flashback. I
Oh,
forgot
she
about
was.
that.
When she was young, Koza, this village boy, came to insult the king, and he even ended up beating Vivi up. And King Cobra is not only kind and forgiving, but I think he also knows very carefully how to choose his words. Because when Koza asks the king why he doesn't just make the weather rain and save them, I think the king kind of tailored his response in a way that didn't belittle Koza or make him feel dumb. Like, he was kind of apologetic in how he said it. He's like, my commands only work on people. He phrased it in a way that makes it sound like it's the king's shortcoming rather than like, oh, you idiot.
Because the
I
boy
think-
doesn't know any better. It's probably the best way to get a
Yeah,
point
like-
across.
Koza was already very combative with the king, and I think if he phrased it any other way, it would have sounded like he's contesting Koza, and it would have just made him hate the king more. So like, and the reason I like pointing this out is because whenever you're reading any good work, you have to remember that every image or word is something that the creator intentionally put there. So whenever I read these things, I'm just gonna assume Oda did that on purpose because
Safe bet.
he's a galaxy brain.
The biggest.
And then shortly after this, Koza fights and beats the kingdom's princess Vivi, and the king forgives him and lets him go. And he, in his explanation, he says, "Oh, it's no big deal. It's just a fight between kids." And this is totally true. But it's even so much more than that. I think King Cobra knows he's kind of playing the long game here. Not in a nefarious way, but a good way. Like, he knows that if a leader's going to be loved, the people have to see the leader as one of them. And in this moment, if he had like given Vivi special protection, or if he punished Koza, it just would have created a divide between his family and the people. They would be like, "Oh, those royals, they're not like us, you know. They have special treatment."
And it's also nice that he knows his daughter's mature enough to like not overreact in this situation. I'm kind of falling in love with Vivi all over again. I forgot this aspect of
Yeah,
this
she's
flashback.
such a good character.
Yeah.
Also, it's just like it's a good parenting moment of like, of teaching Vivi that she has to stand up for herself,
Yeah.
kind of. Yeah, and like she has to be independent, and like if Vivi didn't learn these lessons, she probably never would have snuck into Baroque Works and tried to figure out how to take down Crocodile and do all of that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like it's just good, like kind of like reverse character building and seeing like, oh, here's how Vivi, like something that connects Vivi to the main plot line, but also builds more to her character of like how she became so strong and independent and like worthy of her
For sure.
place.
Yeah, like I think it's easy for flashbacks to kind of get out of hand from the main story. But at any given moment in a flashback in One Piece, you can understand why what we're seeing right now relates back to what's happening in the present. Like it doesn't feel like we're being interrupted.
Yeah.
Oh man, there's some flashbacks later that I can't wait for Bradley to get to.
That's my one like big thing about One Piece that I thought I would hate but end up loving is that Oda really knows how to throw in a flashback and make it feel seamlessly like go from the current time to the flashback and have it feel very like, oh, this enhances what I was reading beforehand. It doesn't like stop the plot. It continues. It gives us more information about what's happening and gives us more attachment to where we're going to.
Yeah.
Like we had never like I think even heard of
Koza.
Koza at this point or who like he was. And so like now we're like, oh, well, this is a character that Vivi knows, so now we really are going to know what happened to him.
That's such an interesting and different way actually for Oda to do something. He never introduces the character after the flashback, as far as I know. And in this case, he did, and Koza's an important character, so
yeah.
I guess to kind of cap off the flashback, we kind of get like we talked about kind of the first half, which is the king's interaction with Toto and Koza. Then we kind of get to see the result of Cobra's godlike parenting. Vivi grows up, she loves her people and they love her. She just kind of comes and goes to the village as she pleases, and everyone will take care of her. But then we see this isn't without consequences. Because she lives like her people and is just coming and going all the time without necessarily any professional protection. These people try to kidnap her, and we kind of see that her and her dad's way of ruling outweighs this danger or this worry, because like immediately the people of the village come to protect her, and it isn't because they fear her royal family or they want a reward. They just genuinely care about her. And at the end of the flashback, we bring it around full circle, where at the beginning, even when the king was as kind as he possibly could be, Koza was still angry with him. And at the end of this flashback, not before we end the flashback, but still during the flashback, they're still good friends, and it's all because of how Vivi was raised. And Igaram, is it Igaram? How you pronounce it?
Igaram.
He and the king discuss whether it's possible that Vivi could be being raised as too kind, like whether this is good for the kingdom. And the king, like, he doesn't even think about it. He just shuts it down. He's like, no, this is what Alabasta needs. She's being raised right. And then it's interesting because we kind of establish that Vivi is the one who kind of changed Koza's attitude towards the royal family. And then immediately after this flashback ends, or pretty much immediately, we learn that Koza is like the head of the rebel forces and that he wants to overthrow the king. And I think having this so soon after the flashback reinforces that Vivi has to be the one to stop the rebellion.
Like, it's such a good mic drop because it's 2 pages after the flashback. It's like Koza, leader of the rebels, which is just knowing what you know about this conflict in the country. It's just such a big jaw drop moment.
And also like it establishes that like like you said before, Vivi is like extremely important to, and not only to like stop the rebellion, but to Koza himself. Like with her gone, he is like definitely like fallen off to the long. Like he's just forgotten everything that he's learned.
Yep, she is the key.
Yeah, Nami 2.0 key.
So yeah, flashbacks in One Piece continue to be god tier. And then we just move from one good chapter to the next. We then get to go into the Baroque Works meeting, where I think this is the highest concentration of powerful people we've seen in the story at this point.
Uh, yeah, I guess it is.
Yeah, it is.
This is a
You
lot of
could
really strong
argue
people.
Shanks' crew, but probably not at that time. I don't know.
Yeah, as soon as I said that sentence, I was like, oh, well, Shanks crew, but I don't actually know how strong they are.
I'd say you're right. This is the highest concentration of strength.
Yeah. Highest
Yeah.
concentration of people that we know are relevant directly to our plot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's just really cool to see these people here, and of course they finally meet Crocodile, who is, man, this guy has some presence.
He
Like,
looks so fucking cool.
he really does. And he kind of gives them the details of.
Note that he just shows up too, or does
Oh,
he?
yeah.
No, does he show up, or does he just flip the chair?
No, he like appears in the chair basically.
Right. That's notable.
Which makes sense once you know like what
Yes.
his whole thing is.
Yep.
Yeah, and he kind of gives them the details of their Operation Utopia, I think he called it. And they kind of have mixed reactions, but they're all going to go along with it.
I forgot none of them knew he was Crocodile except for Miss Sunday.
That's right.
That's super cool.
There's a huge amount of dramatic irony in this arc because we know Crocodile is the bad person, but the people of Alabasta don't know he's the bad person. We also know he is the leader of Baroque Works, but the Baroque Works people don't know that he's the leader of the Baroque Works up until this point.
That's super cool. I like it.
So he kind of gives them the details of the plan, and I'm like, holy shit, it's happening this soon. The pacing in Alabasta has been kind of perfect. This chapter ends off with Luffy saying, I quit, which will be relevant in the second half of the next chapter.
Oh, I really like what's coming next.
Yeah, we have a little bit of stuff before then.
Mm-hmm.
So Mr. 3 strolls into the meeting.
Okay.
And,
No, this is important. I have to tell you something about 4Kids.
Okay.
So in the 4Kids dub, they skipped over Little Garden.
Oh God. Why?
But they did get to Alabasta. So that means that Mr. 3 just shows up for the first time.
Jesus.
And he's like a big jokester. He cracks jokes the entire time. It's infuriating. It's the worst.
Love you 4Kids.
No, you don't.
It'd be even worse, Willer, later in this series.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it gets worse.
Like, Mr. 3 walking into this meeting is just the most tragic thing for him, but it's also hilarious.
It's
because Croc ordered Mr. 3's elimination, and Mr. 3 suspected he was going to be eliminated, but he thought it was because Croc knew he had failed. I forgot that Croc didn't even know Mr. 3 failed. Like, he was just going to order him to be eliminated anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So he just walked in and delivered the news for the first time that the Straw Hats got away, and he couldn't stop them.
That's fantastic.
Like I said, there's tons of dramatic irony in this arc. Like, it's just like, oh, no one knows what the hell's actually going on.
That's what you get for having a dumbass secret society of villains.
Mm-hmm. Of
So,
backstabbers and pirates.
Yeah, Mr. 3 kind of gets fucked. And then if to make matters worse, we kind of cap off this scene with Bon Clay being ordered to reproduce photographs of all the Straw Hats and Vivi so that the tons of Baroque Works agents in the kingdom can spot them.
Right, came back. We mentioned it last time, how he conveniently stole all their identities without them knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Or so. Yeah.
And then we kind of get the first peek or hint at Crocodile's power, where he grabs Mr. 3 around the throat and just like dries out and mummifies and turns him into jerky.
Pretty much instantly.
And then feeds him to the crocodiles, and holy shit, it was a terrifying sight.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Feeds him to the crocodiles, and it looks like they are just like, yeah, we'll commence our operation in the morning. And they're all kind of gung-ho about it. And then we cut back to the Straw Hats, and we have Luffy versus Vivi.
The fight of the century.
Ding ding.
And I kind of want to hear you guys' impressions on like their argument and kind of the points they're making.
Emotional mastermind.
Yeah. This is the point for me where I realized, like, oh, this is why Luffy's the captain, in my opinion. Like this is the one thing that like it really stuck out to me. This is why it can't be Zoro or Sanji or Nami. It's that Luffy is able to like think back. It's like here's the bigger picture and everything that needs to happen, and here's you're getting your emotions in the way, and here's what you need to actually do.
Yeah, it's not gonna go not as neatly as you think, because he just got a real when he gets to Yuba and he meets Toto is his name. He gets a real look at the state of the country, and he realizes this isn't gonna be as easy as Vivi thinks. He even calls her naive. And then he caps it off with saying, "You need to let us help you because it's not going to be how you think it's going to be, and you need to prepare yourself for that." That's what I remember from this encounter. Keep in mind, I haven't read or watched it in years.
Yeah, more like he's like a million people are itching to fight, and you expect everyone to live. Like it really shows that like this entire time, like we've had this Luffy that's been like very happy go lucky, and it's like oh pirate life, and like it doesn't kill anybody. But then this is like the one point where Luffy like really matures up and is like, I understand what's happening here. Like I know people are at stake, and you can't just ignore the fact that people aren't going to die. That's going to happen regardless of what you try to do. So rather than try to just stop the impossible, you need to do what you need to do.
Now, really. Bradley, give us your expert analysis.
Yeah.
So like I think the general crux of it is they kind of have a different idea of what the priority is here, because Vivi's like, oh, we have to get to the rebels because I can stop them. And Luffy is like, I mean, maybe we could get to the rebels in time. And it's like, maybe you could stop them, but you wouldn't stop them without there being bloodshed. Like, there's just too many of them. There's too little time. It's going to happen. That's the nature of the country right now. He's like, if there's one target that we as a group can take out, it's Crocodile, and he's like kind of the inciter of this entire rebellion.
Yeah, I think Luffy realizes that no matter how the meeting with Vivi and Koza goes, that's unpredictable, but Crocodile is a legit cancer to this society.
Yeah.
No matter what, as soon as the fight ends, he's like, all right, where's Crocodile? Well, he knows that is their ticket out no matter what.
Yeah,
and he knows that like even if they go up and talk to Koza and talk Koza down, Crocodile still exists,
right? And is still revered by the people.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Is that he's like this godly hero that's sucking the country literally dry.
Damn, that's
bars. And then the volume ends and it tells you to buy Toriko.
Do it. Toriko's really good up until it's really bad.
Oh no!
But like it's really good while it's good.
Shit. Toriko.
And then we get the Star Wars Battlefront.
Yes.
Yes. Good joke.
So we are now going to.
This is a funny cover picture because Django was just about to be tried for being a pirate, and then he just gets everyone to dance in the courtroom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've kind of been loving the Django background art.
The Django art's really fun.
Because it's basically him and
Iron Fist. Yeah.
It's really fun how like dancing kind of brings them together.
Yeah.
It's just delightful.
Still going places.
Yeah. So after resolving their kind of argument over priorities and friendship, they are like, okay, you know what? We're going straight to Crocodile. We're going to Rain Base, and we're just going to take him out.
Fuck him.
And we kind of start off this chapter with them kind of mapping out their route, and then Toto shows up with the water he was able to acquire from digging the rest of the night. And I really love this panel. Luffy has this restraint with drinking the water that Toto gave them. And the reason this is so important is because back when it was water that they had just bought, Luffy was totally fine with like gulping it down, spitting it out, and kind of
being an ass.
Yeah, he was like pretty much wasting huge amounts of it. But when a friend slaved away all night to get them that water, it's precious to Luffy, and he will not waste a drop of it.
It's beautiful.
Luffy and his friends, just holy shit, so good. So they get the water and they set off back across the desert. And let's see, I'm kind of flipping through. We get our first look of, or not our first look at adult Koza, but we kind of get to see more of him.
Yeah.
And he kind of has decided that the time has come to advance on the capital. And this is kind of us really, this chapter's really lighting the fuse for like the grand battle at the end, because Luffy and the crew are like, okay, let's go get Crocodile. And then the rebels are like, okay, we're going to advance on the capital. And then the king's like, okay, we need to act like right now. And like we have like after this chapter, there's no turning back on any of this.
Yeah, stuff's actually heating up.
So there's a great panel here. I don't know if you caught it. That goes back to the flashback, but so Koza's talking about, oh, we're gonna go march on the capital, and then it goes back to Koza. In the second panel, he goes, "They hit us, so you want to hit us back. This isn't a skull between children."
Yeah,
which is a great callback to the fight between Vivi and Koza, and where everyone overreacted to it. And it's kind of like a weird. It's kind of a nice ironic flip on that. This is a like Koza still really doesn't want to take harsh action against them. He still understands where they're coming from, and he understands why it's happening. He just doesn't know how to solve it.
Aside from violence.
And he knows, like, if he goes and like destroys the rebels, and he understands, like, they're rebelling because they care about the country and they think they can make it better. So him just like killing them isn't going to solve the problem. I don't know. I just thought it was a nice callback to the flashback.
Yeah, and man, like it's so tragic to me because every side of this conflict is doing what they think is like best for their friends and their country. Mm-hmm. We even get panels like later on, like in the next volume of Even, I think, where I think as the final battle is about to start, both Koza and like the captain of the Royal Guard are like, this is for our country. And then even like Vivi in the argument in the previous chapter, she has this line where she like yells, insisting that she's trying to save the rebels. And even though we know that's what she has been trying to do, she's trying to save everyone in her country. I think just hearing like a ruler saying that they're trying to save the people rebelling against them is just like, it just made me feel so hard for this country, because everyone really is trying to do what they think is best.
Oda has generally set up a really engaging conflict in this arc.
Yeah, it's insane. We get to meet Pell and Chaka, which these are, it's called Zoan fruits.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Where they can transform into these animals, and holy shit.
Did they say which Zoans they have?
Well, I don't think they say the name, but Pell turns into a falcon.
Well, there you go. You got
Pell the falcon, and I don't think I've seen Chaka transform yet, but he's called Chaka the Jackal. So maybe it's a jackal.
Maybe you might be onto something.
Karoo shows up. What a hero!
The god.
And the king is like, okay, Crocodile
bad.
He's fucking the kingdom. So they make their plan where they're like, okay, the rebels are going to march on the capital city. There's 0% chance we can stop all of them. So we're just going to go to Rain Base and try to take out Crocodile. Spoiler alert, things aren't going to really work out there.
Oh boy, we're getting there.
Yeah. The crew is arriving at Rain Base in the next chapter.
But wait, first of all, Django gets acquitted because of his sweet dance moves.
And Full Body gets demoted. Big plot. Yeah. This is great.
What bros. What a bromance. We advance on Rain Base, which is like the coolest looking city.
What do you think of this climate baton that Usopp built for Nami?
Yeah, I haven't actually gotten to see it a ton in combat yet. I think the general idea is really cool, but I mean, I just need to see it actually.
I wonder if you'll get to see it.
I wonder.
Also, Joe, I want to point out this panel where Sanji says, "Just call me Prince Charming," and that reminds me of some stuff in this arc. Oh boy, Sanji's so cool.
Andre is so fucking cool.
Yeah. Then obviously everyone's super thirsty. They immediately try to go get water, which brings them right to Smoker and to Shigi. And they're like, fuck, let's get out. And then I thought it was really fun because you had just showed me the One Piece Pirate Warriors game the other day.
Oh yeah, I was playing a Smoker.
Here for the first time, I see Smoker's white vine attack where he spirals up. I was like, oh, I saw that in the game.
Shit, dog.
It's really cool.
This is a great joke of them walking to the bar, drinking, and then realizing.
Just spitting on them.
And we get our Scooby-Doo chase scene throughout the city. And everyone kind of splits up during this chase. And it makes me really sad when Chopper gets separated. They're like, we're just going to have to leave him. Because I'm like, Chopper is like the one most likely to have abandonment issues.
Yep.
And they all are running away. And they're like, what about Chopper? And like, he's just going to have to deal. And I was like, oh no, I left my boy. So this is really just kind of a lot of fighting the Navy. And man, they really storm right into the casino. And I'm like, holy shit, like we're really doing it. We're really going right up to Crocodile right now.
And Luffy has no tact. He just walks in. What's the plan?
Oh, yeah.
Here we come, Crocodile.
And then we kind of start the next chapter, or the next chapter does start with him running in, being like, "Oh, come on, Crocodile!" And they're like, "Hey, come into the VIP room." And of course, it's a sea prism stone prison. And pretty much the second they get in there, Smoker's like, "Oh, okay, we're fucked."
Yep.
Like,
it's cool that Smoker is also in this predicament with them.
yeah, because we remember that, like, he's just vulnerable.
I just remember how dumb of a joke that is. Like, oh, they literally just walked into the
oh
train.
yeah. Oh, it's the gaggiest.
Yeah.
This is a super serious political manga, by the way.
and then Luffy's face of his realization of how dumb he is.
Yeah. And I think this is like the second time we've actually heard of a sea prism stone since the last time Smoker was like introduced.
Yeah, it hasn't become relevant since then.
Yeah. And they kind of talk about it a little bit more, how there's like one place they come from and it can be thought of as solid ocean, which is why it strips devil fruit users of their abilities.
Right.
Which was all really interesting.
You'll learn more,
I'm sure. So they're just kind of lamenting the fact that they're stupid and they're in this trap, like, and that they're all going to die. Luffy is obviously trying to provoke Crocodile, and Crocodile just does not give a fuck. He's like, this is all according to plan. Which, by the way, Crocodile actually is a mastermind.
Good
like,
plans.
This entire plan for destabilizing the country was kind of genius, and it totally worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. They haven't. Okay, never mind. Moving on.
Listen,
Pell's got a fucking gun.
Pell's a gun.
Yeah, this whole thing is kind of cool. Like a falcon with machine guns, and he can carry Vivi away. It was all really cool. No one's a match for him until...
Oh, shit.
Falcon type.
Man, Miss All Sunday shows up, and her ability...
Is it time?
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Before that, Django's trying to make Full Body forget about their friendship.
Oh my god, because they realize they can't be friends.
It's so good.
But then in the next chapter, a hot piece of ass is going to walk by and they're going to forget about it.
What bros?
So, like, this really short fight between Miss All Sunday and Pell is cool because he, like, flies at her and she makes, like, arms come out of his back that wrap around him and restrain him so he can't flap his wings and he falls. Like,
and you're formally introduced to her fruit.
Holy shit. It's so cool. The flower fruit, I think it was called.
Yeah, or bloom maybe?
Bloom maybe.
Flower.
Okay. In any case, holy shit.
Yo, she's straight doing JoJo poses with her clutch attack.
Yeah, it's very cool.
That panel of her like revealing all of her arms, I think that's like her like big. That's the pose she does in like every game. I feel.
That's an iconic pose right there.
Yeah, it's like how could you not use that?
It looks so cool.
In her best outfit.
Bold.
So she's pretty much just like, Pell, you're fucked. I have VV. And we kind of cut back to Crocodile's chamber.
Wait, this is really important. This is Luffy's first crew impression.
Yeah, and it's kind of great. They are like in a life or death situation, and he's like, "Hey, what?
I'm
on me?
Sanji here.
Hey." And Usopp loves it. It's just a lot of fun. Again, they're kind of threatening Crocodile from within the cage, and like he just does not care because he has the right to be one of the most cocky people on the planet. He's probably top 7 cockiest people on the planet, if I had to
That's
estimate.
a very big guess. Is it because there are 7 warlords?
No, it's just a coincidence.
Okay.
They
Decapitate Crocodile.
Yeah, sorry for any pauses. I'm just going through page by page because I want to make sure we don't miss anything. Vivi shows up. She's like, "I'm gonna kill you, Crocodile," and
she does it.
Simon Belmont's his head.
Yeah, and like this was kind of crazy because we hadn't seen this aspect of his fruit yet. All we had seen was him mummify Mr. 2. Or no, not Mr. 2.
Mr. 3.
And so she does this, and obviously we know now it's sand, but I could conceivably believe at this moment that she just turned his head into a pink mist.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, holy
Jesus
shit.
Christ.
I was like, holy shit, she totally just killed this man. And then
Oda does a great job of using the black and white to his advantages sometimes. And other times you're just like, oh, that man with black hair. Yeah, he's blonde.
It's only with hairs and colors.
Yeah. Of course, by the end of the page, we learned that it didn't work, and Crocodile's fine.
So the other day, I was surprised because Smoker got hit in the back as a Logia, and then we learn in this arc that this reflex it just goes to show how trained Crocodile is, to where he can turn his body into his Logia form on a reflex.
Yeah, like it's not even just that his devil fruit is already really good. He's just he's just mastered it at this point. Which I mean, he's not a warlord for no reason.
Oh hey, this hot piece of ass. You want to remember her.
Oh
wait,
yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah, it's also interesting because
yes.
The pacing of this arc has done a lot of things I didn't expect. Whenever we initially learned about the Operation Utopia, where all the members had their different like objectives they were supposed to complete, when we learned about that, the Straw Hats were not here yet. So I was like, oh, they're going to have to like intercept these people in their plans and stop them. And it's like, no, everyone is totally defeated and in custody before the plan even starts.
I like this line where it says a long day is beginning and the Straw Hats are just in the cage.
Like at this point, I was just like, they're screwed. Like that's it. Like the plan has started and they've already lost.
On to the next island, I guess.
But there were 2 members of the Straw Hats I hadn't accounted for yet. I can't believe I forgot. We cut away back to the royal family, or rather the absence of the royal family. The king is missing. And Chaka's like, well, this sucks.
Hey, Bradley, I think your mic might have disconnected there because you got an echoey voice.
Hold on, you're right. Let me sing a song while I plug it back in.
Go, Joe.
Oh,
sing us a song, you're the piano man.
No, we can't. We get copyright strike. Sing us a song, you're a
rubber man.
Rubber man.
Hey. Okay, how we doing?
Sounding sexy like always, Bradley.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Much better. The king is missing, and we see Koza riding towards a town. Like, okay, why is the king doing this? And we see that the king is just kind of like raising hell, which is very uncharacteristic for the kind King Cobra. But we also, I think we also get like a flashback before that happens where
Where I like one line in the flashback. I'll be back for the rain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is like Koza before they had left Yuba,
It's
like before
basically
the rebels
Koza
left Yuba.
growing up once Vivi has left and out of his life. It's just an abridged version of it.
Yeah, which
And realizing like, oh, Vivi really was the girl keeping this boy together in terms of
man,
Yeah.
I need him and Vivi to just get back together again.
Bring the crew back together.
Yeah, and
he's
then
boink.
we see the king just do all this horrible, awful, no good stuff to this town, and we
Kicked
see
a small child.
yeah, and yeah, the small child looks suspiciously like a young Koza, almost like Otis
It's-
trying to draw a parallel here.
It's the same child also that asked to join the army earlier.
Yeah, I wonder if he did that on purpose.
He would never. But
Oda's too dumb to do things
there's
like
a
that.
certain smile here that is definitely on purpose, and we
Oh
talked
my
about
God.
it last week.
This, like, I don't know if I would have initially noticed this if Joe wasn't talking about it last week, where I like this whole time I was genuinely like, what the fuck is King Cobra doing?
Like King Cobra snapped. Like the pressure was too much. He's being too harsh now.
Yeah, like my theory before I saw this particular panel was like maybe he's going to commit, like maybe he's accepted the rebellion's going to win, so like he wants to just try to be awful before he dies so they can like rally around and like his people will feel triumphant and unite again.
But you forgot.
The reality, like, man, the king was Bon Clay. And
Yeah.
we
Big
get that
brain
same
play.
smile that Joe pointed out last week. And like the second I saw this smile, I was like, holy shit, because we don't even reveal immediately that it's Bon Clay.
Right.
You just see this smile and you're like, oh no.
Mm-hmm.
It is kind of genius.
And God, Oda's such a good artist because he does the same thing here. It's like that's Cobra's face, but because of the way that the certain aspects of his face are contorted, you just know that's not him.
It's
Yeah.
disturbing. It's like that Luffy.
Yeah.
I love this panel of Miss Doublefinger and Mr. One just walking through the town.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how she just walks with hip sways that are so exaggerated.
Oh yeah.
She's got the swish swish sound effects.
Mm-hmm.
And man, like the the Brokeworks agents are just kind of raising hell through town, and the general
with the
idea,
cover with the cover of like a pirate attack.
yeah, and it's pretty much just going to incite the rebels to be like, you know what, it's time. Like we have to end this. We just have to march on and take the capital. And man, Bon Clay should have been more careful when he was changing back to his normal self, because young kid who looks like Koza knows that king was not actually the king.
That's good.
And I think they try to kill him, but I think our boy survives.
Oh man.
I want to point something out about 172's cover.
I was about to just say the same thing, Willer.
Too bad, Joe.
No.
Do you see those people on the left?
Yes, it's Helmeppo and
Kobe. And the dog masked man and the bombshell woman is there.
I love that all of our people are together. I love them.
Willer, do you think Dog Mask Man is going to be a playable character?
He already is, Joe.
Is he? God,
Joe, you didn't play enough of that game. Yeah, you need to unlock more characters.
So I forget. Have we only seen the Dog Mask Captain in the context of these?
Yes.
Yeah, he's the one training Helmeppo and Kobe.
Yeah, and he was going to execute
Axe-Hand
Morgan, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I've thought about it, and I think he's one of my more favorite characters of the series now.
He's you. Anyways.
I don't know why you think that, but okay.
He's just you.
So we get like a huge moment of dramatic irony where this kid is trying to calm the rebels down. Like he would totally be able to calm the rebels down if he could actually tell them that the king was an imposter. But because he can't get the words out, Koza is like, this poor kid, we have to march on to the capital. And it is just like so tragic. And I just love how Oda set that up. And Koza got shot, by the way.
Yeah.
It's kind of
During the
relevant.
I think that brings us back to the cells.
Don't forget the turtle, though.
I forgot the turtle.
I love that he's so cool.
I really,
Um,
yeah.
So I think at this point, most of the Brokework agents have kind of accomplished their part of the plan. We don't have a visual on Mr. Four and Miss Merry Christmas, but I think they had implied earlier that it was their job to kidnap the actual king, which they in fact did.
Yes, has been proven to be true.
So the rebels are about to march onto the capital. Chaka kind of heard what happened, and he's like, well, I guess it's time to take down the rebels. So we are actually gearing up for that
For war.
cataclysmic battle, that war that
The
we've
war
been building
that,
up to.
yeah, it's been there since the beginning of this arc, and the Straw Hats have failed time and time again to stop the war from happening.
Yeah, in this chapter, we kind of get these panels I was talking about where both Chaka and Koza have this war cry where they are like yelling that they are doing this to defend Alabasta, but we both know it's just this manufactured tragedy.
Meanwhile, Crocodile's in the cages just laughing as all this slaughter is happening.
Yeah, just being a dick.
Being a little dick.
But man, he's so cool when he is being a dick. He kind of explains his master plan, which I'm glad Smoker was here to hear it.
You know, you gotta have the plot conveniences here and there.
Yeah. And he basically gives Vivi a choice. He's like, you know what? You could try and run as fast as you can, get to Alabarna, and maybe stop the rebels, or you can stay here and risk your life against these crocodiles to maybe save your 4 friends.
Oh no,
that are in
like
this
banana gators.
Oh, you're right. Well, they're more bananas than they are gators. So, so he kind of sets her up with this real hard predicament, and I think it's a really good predicament because there's been a lot ever since Vivi was introduced to the party. There's been a lot of moments where she has flashbacks to things people have told her where, like, if you're ever in any doubt, the kingdom should always take precedence over others, like your countrymen. I think there's a flashback even where Igaram tells her, even if you have to betray friends, like, do what you have to do to stay alive and to save the country. And while this isn't necessarily the scenario I would have imagined, it really is a scenario where she has to choose, like, which one do I try to save with the few hours I have? My friends first or the country first?
Yeah.
And
the look on her face when she says "I'll kill you" is good job, Oda. That's a
she
good
is
emotion.
Really fucking mad for good reason.
God, she's got some great faces this chapter.
Oh yeah. So Crocodile kind of decides to leave her here to decide on what to do. And let's see, Luffy is like, we can't die here because I'm supposed to kick Crocodile's butt. Which I'm like, man, I really wish you would. So crocodiles start coming into the room, and it's clear Vivi is not going to be able to handle them. And at this point, I'm just like, I have no possible idea.
Who will save our heroes?
Who will save us? And then
Oda just introduces a new character out of nowhere called Mr. Prince.
Yeah, this mysterious Mr. Prince, right?
Mysterious.
Yeah. Crocodile gets this call, and he says, "This is Restaurant Le Crabe."
Please
and
don't.
like, as soon as I saw this panel, I was like, "Holy shit! I can't believe I forgot about Sanji." And
like, I was talking to Willard about this, like, when you started reading One Piece, but it's like, man, Sanji just comes in clutch when he needs to.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
Joe mentioned that in the early discussions when we got to Baradier.
In this moment, I like thought back to moments like Usopp and Arlong Park, where just like every member of the crew really gets a chance to shine.
Absolutely.
Like everyone's relevant, everyone's useful, everyone is gonna come in clutch.
This
like,
arc is the Straw Hats shining the arc. Like,
oh yeah,
There's so many good moments.
It is so good. But I don't know why we're talking about Sanji because this is Mr. Prince.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
Rude.
Yeah. So he's like, okay, what the hell's happening? This Mr. Prince guy is calling. And at first it's kind of like, oh, ha ha ha, I have one up to you. I'm Mr. Prince. And then it sounds like Mr. Prince gets totally destroyed. But it was a fluke because in reality, Mr. Prince was like making an agent say that to lure out Crocodile, I think.
Yes, in the 4Kids version, they didn't want to show Sanji beating up an agent, so they had Chopper do the voice, which made no sense, but okay.
How far did I think you've told me before? How far did One Piece go? Or no, not One Piece. 4Kids.
4Kids got to the arc after. Did they? I think they might have stopped.
They finished the filler arc after Alabasta, and they stopped right before the next arc.
But they did some games of the which had characters of the next arc, so you got some of their voices as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was terrible.
Yeah. So there's kind of a little more dialogue between Crocodile and the others, kind of a little more gloating. Before he leaves, he is kind of successfully baited out by Sanji and Chopper's plan. And shortly after, Sanji is able to get into the casino and destroy the bridge so that Baroque agents won't be able to chase in after him.
Yeah.
He proceeds to save the Straw Hats, being the clutch boy that he is.
Yeah, and we are kind of speeding along here, which I think is fine because this is a ton of action, which I feel like in general, we like to talk more about the things that aren't taken at face value, and the action here is just good. It
is worth noting that Mr. 3 was alive. He lived by coating himself in wax.
Oh, this good old Mr. 3.
And Luffy doesn't remember his name, so he just calls him 3, which is fair enough.
Oh, we're not going to talk about Chopper being the little boy that he is, like sneaking past Crocodile.
It is really cool how they see Big Chopper running, and then they run after him, and then he's just able to shrink down and calmly walk away. Or not calmly walk away.
Calm, yeah. Calmly's the
quotations.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're able to beat up Mr. 3 and make him unlock the cage with
which is a super good application of his powers because they're wax that harden as much as steel, so of course they can be keys.
Yeah, it's extremely versatile. He's Green Lantern but with wax.
He's cooler than Green Lantern, and he's not even cool.
So
I like when Vivi pulls Usopp. His face is stretching the same way it was in Drum Island.
Oh man!
And Zoro saves Smokey.
Yeah, and I think this is another one of those moments where, like you said, this is why Luffy is the captain, because Zoro straight up admits he's like, it wasn't my decision. I was gonna let you drown. Luffy's the one who saved you.
Right.
Which is just a lot of fun. And Smoker I'm just glad he's an honorable man. He's like, you know what? I still have my job to do. One day I'm going to capture you, but you saved my life today. He's like, go on. And
just this once, I'll let you go. That is such a big character progression for the man who came into the Grand Line because he was mad that he let you escape.
Yeah, this is like a guy who will chase you to the ends of the earth, despite the fact that like his Navy superiors, I think, didn't even want him to do this.
Yeah, he's being a trouble child right now.
Yeah, so despite just the fact that he's as relentless as he is, that he'll restrain himself is great.
Yeah, he says, do you think that I care what the brass thinks?
Yeah.
He doesn't give a shit.
I know we just talked about it, but I love the paneling, the gag timing of Mr. 3 opened panel. It's just 3 panels of just basically silence of him just opening the the cage.
And then whenever we finally zoom in after that, you see you're like, oh, why is he obliging? Why is he opening the cage? And then we zoom in on his face and it's all beat up and it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yep. Then he gets kicked halfway across the room.
Yeah.
So crabs.
Big old crabs.
Yeah, crab. Look at those crabs.
Mother of pearl.
What the
We
fuck is with Usopp's eyes in that panel? Jesus
I know,
Christ.
holy shit.
They're,
He looks like an alien.
What
They're
the
crab eyes.
fucking heavy weather looking ass.
But yeah, dude, we we kind of end off this volume with they're gonna get on the crab and go to Alubarna, and holy shit, Vivi gets crabbed by Crocodile's hook, but then holy shit, Luffy swaps himself with her, and then holy shit, he's gonna have to fight Crocodile.
And it's not. It's like he could have easily saved Vivi. He very purposefully gets himself got because he's like, you know what? I'm out of that fucking cage. It's time.
Yeah.
Well, I think also too, it's you can because Luffy does this later, if you remember, in a very recent arc, where like Luffy's just like, I have to fight this person because I'm the only one that could probably stand up to him. And if he keeps chasing us, he's gonna get us.
Yeah, Luffy's smart.
Yeah.
The end of the volume has a fun map of Alabasta that just kind of shows where things happened and where things are about to happen, which I think is...
Oda has developed this technique of using maps because he puts players all over a country.
Yeah, considering how sprawling the world and story of One Piece is, I think this is a good call.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What do we have to buy at the end of that volume, Bradley?
We have World Trigger.
Oh no, don't buy that one.
I watched the first episode. I didn't really like it.
Yeah. All right, crab fight time.
Crabs.
Yeah, volume 20. Let's see. Volume 20 of One Piece. Also, Oda says that stiff roundhouse kick is a really cool phrase to say.
He's not wrong. I guess.
He's not wrong. I wish we could spend more time on all the stuff that Oda says between chapters, but that would probably be longer than actually analyzing the story because
he goofs around a lot. It's super worth reading the volume version.
I really love that. It's gotten to the point where some of the questions people ask Oda in the question corner just don't even relate to One Piece. Like,
their question corner lore.
Yeah,
basically.
Some person was like, "Hey, like, how do I like cook this food?" Or like, and then like there was one question someone had about a background character, and it's like, "Please tell me my husband and I can't make babies because because we're up all night wondering about this."
There's so many gags that relate to older gags. Like, there's a guy who consistently gets his art into One Piece called like he calls himself 420 Blazer. So it's like 420 Blazer requested Zoro playing with penguins. And he actually gets a lot of the cover arts.
Oh, I love it. It's
great.
So good. Maybe we'll try to touch on some of the fun between chapter stuff more now and then. So we kind of pick off right where the last volume ended, and they are parting ways. The rest of the crew is going to Alubarna on the crab, and holy shit, Luffy is about to fight one of the 7 warlords of the seas. I didn't think this was going to happen until like chapter 600.
Right? We're only in we're reaching 170 here. We're actually 180, and we're already getting one of the 7.
Yeah, and I've kind of said this, like, back when One Piece was first coming out and people didn't know how long the story was going to be, like, this, considering how long the average manga is, this probably felt like it was gearing up to be, like, kind of a finale. Like,
it's such a raising stake.
Time.
So yeah. So yeah, Luffy is just kind of like, let's get right into it. I'm just gonna fuck you up, and Crocodile's like, all right,
I'll give you 3 minutes.
But before they fight, we get a name drop for Miss All Sunday.
Very important.
I've heard the name Nico Robin just in passing from existing in a world where people watch anime. I don't know the significance of the name. I just know that she's a significant... I know that she's probably going to be significant past Alabasta now. Granted, every character in the story is significant, so...
You're right. Does that make you remember anything Joe says all the time?
Nico Robin's hot. I mean...
Yeah, that's what Joe says all the fucking time.
I mean, he's not wrong.
He won't shut up about it.
He's not wrong. She do kind of have a Lois Griffin nose, but...
Oh, she's cute.
Yeah, no, she's
the nose
cute.
is the one thing that makes her different from every freaking One Piece female.
Yeah, it really is. But yeah, 3 minutes.
So Bradley, they made
Joe's so fucking excited. Jesus Christ.
Bradley, Nico Robin's so hot.
no, but like I just wanted to point out in the 4 Kids version of the show, because they're 4 kids, they made her have a Southern Belle accent,
Yeah.
and it drives me up a wall.
Yeah, I could see her having a Southern accent, but maybe not like a Southern Belle accent. Just kind of like
It's just
I promise you the Southern accent doesn't fit in any sense.
yeah.
She just
trust
wears a
me.
cowboy hat.
Yeah.
So let's see. 3 minutes on the clock. We're
Fight time.
fighting one of the final bosses of One Piece.
Let's go.
And
Mhm.
this is my favorite fight to date in the story.
Oh yeah, like the
Well-
choreography here is really strong. From Crocodile swiping at Luffy's head to him flipping over and nailing him in the face.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You get the
and-
panel of the Gatlings all going through his sand body. Just so much good stuff.
I love the way Oda draws his sand like disappearing. It has
yeah.
this really kind of like dark edge to it. It reminds me a lot of like Yu-Gi-Oh art, where it's like this really rough.
does, especially in this panel where like his hair is turning into sand as he dodges a punch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so it's just it really adds this kind of like I don't know, this very godly shapeshifter kind
Well,
of demon-esque form.
This is also the first time we've seen Oda really use digital effects. Like they're very unnoticeable usual.
Yeah, I noticed that because I was like, there's no way he did all these dots by hand.
Right.
But I don't really care because, like, there are a lot of manga where artists have like kind of swapped drawing styles halfway through. They've swapped between traditional and digital. I've read a few manga where I know that happens, and I can tell when it happens when I'm reading it. And while you can tell the sand was done digitally here, I think it's not jarring. Like I think it fits seamlessly with
It's
the
just-
other art.
It
the
looks
fact that you can tell it's different really sells like how
supernatural.
yeah.
It is.
That's the word I was looking for. Crocodile is like the first like Devil Fruit user that really feels supernatural when you fight him.
Yeah.
Because
Smoker's the
you've
same,
always had
right?
Luffy, who is freaking crazy looking, right? But
Yeah.
like the way Crocodile masters his fruit, the attacks he does, just his stature, it's just on a different level of any enemy so far.
If he feels very serious compared to like everything else we've seen where it's been very cartoony like. Because even with like Smoker, who's the same type, it's still like white puffy clouds going over everywhere.
And Arlong has his dumb nose.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Arlong is not Devil Fruit user, but yeah.
Okay. I
Um,
love Desert Spada as an attack. I've
Yeah.
always
My favorite thing about this fight is something is done very differently in this fight that we haven't seen in any other fights.
is
In
it
just
Luffy
about-
struggling.
In just about not even specifically that. It's kind of related to that. In pretty much every fight in One Piece, usually when Goofy busts out a Gum Gum move, shut up. Usually when Luffy I was about to say when Luffy pulls out a Gum Gum move. That's not much better.
Well, you
Um,
said Goofy, which is, anyways.
Anyway, usually when Luffy uses one of his Gum Gum moves, it's kind of like the triumphant moment of like, oh, I'm gonna finish the fight off. Sometimes against like stronger opponents, maybe he'll have to use like a second Gum Gum move. I think against the likes of Arlong in the whole like volume plus long fight, he uses like maybe 3 or 4 big Gum Gum moves. This, every single page, one after the other, it is just Gum Gum move after Gum Gum move, and none of it is working. These are like his finisher moves. This is like a move that destroyed Arlong Park and almost killed Arlong along with it.
Yeah, he's using bazooka and axe, which have finished off enemies before. He's even using utility moves like net,
Yeah.
which is just like he's
Using-
going for it all.
Every move, all of his finishers, one after the other, and it just does not accomplish anything. And I think the fact that usually these are the finisher moves, and he only has to use them once or twice per like encounter. I think the fact that they're just used all back to back here sells just how out of his league he is in this fight.
Oh yeah, enemies are getting tougher now. He's gonna have to use more moves.
Oh yeah. Um, so man, Luffy kind of gets to do his all-out offensive in the first half of this fight, and we see how none of it works. And Crocodile's like, oh, okay, well, 3 minutes is almost up, and then he launches his first attack, and I'm like, okay, well, obviously Luffy's not gonna be able to kill Crocodile just by punching him in this moment. At least the amount of focus Crocodile has. But I'm like, okay, is Sand really gonna be able to kill Luffy? And then Crocodile launches his first attack, and we see it cut this tiny little grain of sand in half before Luffy dodges, and I'm like, holy shit.
Oh yeah, with the desert spada, it's so fine that I never noticed that it cuts a little grain of sand.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Um and then he makes this like this like quicksand crater, and I'm just like, we're not gonna beat him right now. Like, it's just not gonna happen.
And then the first attack that he lands, it just removes one of Luffy's arms from the fight, basically.
Yeah, it's insane. And we kind of Luffy is able to kind of recover that arm using Toto's Yuba water, which is such a good moment because he thinks back to Toto saying like Yuba will not fall to the sands.
That's what Luffy even yells. Yuba won't lose to the sands.
Yeah, and so it's just like a really triumphant moment where I'm like, you know what? Luffy's gonna come back. He's gonna be able to. He's gonna drink this water. Yuba's not gonna fall to the sands. He's gonna be able to just, I don't know, pull something out.
And
And then
boom, he fucking Vores Crocodile.
he forced Crocodile, and I'm like, this is it, and it's gonna work out. And then it doesn't, and then it actually gets worse. And Crocodile makes this sandstorm that's gonna go destroy Yuba. And oh my god! And this is the moment I realized that those sandstorms that we saw back in Yuba that were raging whenever Luffy's crew arrived, those could have just as well have been Crocodile sandstorms that he sent over there.
Oh yeah, he's definitely been sending some over in that direction.
Because like, it's totally trivial for him. Like, he could just walk out of his casino, walk to the edge of town, throw a natural disaster across the nation, and then walk back inside.
And the implication seems to be like it gets naturally stronger as it becomes a proper natural disaster, like you say. That's a good word for it.
It's going to compound on itself, and he can just casually destroy. He can like just casually throw these like town destroying storms across miles, like across this nation. It is kind of cool. Meanwhile, while this is happening, things are also getting worse for the others because they realize they're probably not going to be able to get to Alabarna on time. And then, holy shit, the chapter ends with Luffy impaled on a hook.
Yeah, that was a good run for our boy, huh?
Luffy is impaled on a hook.
I think Crocodile's dialogue here is just an insult to injury as well, where he's just a too big greenhorn. And it's just like Crocodile's whole thing is that he's so much more experienced than Luffy, and he looks down on him so much because he's just this idealistic like scramp, basically.
Yeah, like how many Luffys has Crocodile killed?
Yeah, exactly.
He says, "You're a too big greenhorn in the Grand Line."
Wow, you really did it.
I hope he said it like that in the 4-kid version.
The whole chapter is called 30 Million Man versus the 81 Million Man to just kind of sell you.
Yeah, that has to be their bounties, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I actually, when I read the chapter title, I didn't know what the hell it was talking about until now, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
There you go. Yeah, so Crocodile's bounty was 81 million, but when a Shichibukai gets hired by the government, or a Seven Warlord, you would know them as, when they get hired by the government, their bounty is frozen. So that means at the point that he was hired, he was 81.
Yeah, like I could imagine this man being like in the hundreds of millions at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you'll meet other ones with larger bounties. It just means they were around longer, not that they're
or they were more notorious before they got hired.
Yes.
So then we see the Straw Hats minus Sanji and plus Mr. Prince on their way to Alubarna on the crab.
Why is he still here?
I don't know. But yeah, they're on their way to Alubarna on the crab, and you can kind of tell that Vivi's like, we don't have to worry about Luffy. He promised he's going to meet us in Alubarna, but you can just tell from the look on her face that, like, her eyes and the sweat on her brow, she I don't know if she believes what she's saying.
She's kind of losing it. It's kind of waiting on her.
Yeah. And then we just like escalate the tragedy of the situation even more, where we see Toto. He has this huge pool of water that he's dug up, and it must feel like the most hope he's had in a long time.
Jesus.
And we see the sandstorm rolling in.
God, I forgot about that insult to injury. God damn.
But we don't need to worry because Yuba will not fall to the sand.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. Turns out Luffy was not totally gored to death on this hook.
Yeah.
At least not yet.
High HP, don't forget.
Yeah. So Crocodile just kind of throws him into the quicksand. And man, like, this is some of the, I feel like, the most graphic stuff I've seen in One Piece. Like, these really look like death throes from Luffy.
Oh, Luffy is in insane pain. We've never seen him this hurt.
He's like blood and foaming at the mouth, and he doesn't. You can't see his pupils. Like, I'm really fucking concerned for Luffy.
And he's about to get quicksand. Like, this is the most drastic. Joe, should I bring up the thing or let it go?
Bradley, do you notice the thing?
No, let's move on.
I'd see Luffy fell in the quicksand.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Well, the thing is, Smoker's sick ass bike is back. Let's talk about that.
That is the thing. He's kind of a badass.
And he's got his goggles.
I always forget the fact that he's not smoking one cigar; he's smoking 2 cigars at once.
He definitely has an immunity to smoke's effect on the body.
What do you mean? His mouth is just open all the time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I forgot. My bad. It must have been a smudge on the page.
Must have been.
So Smoker is just like, he's like, I just can't do this. He's like, he kind of tells Tashigi, no matter what, she's gonna have to go to Alubarna, but as for what she does there, he's like, just follow your sense of justice. Whatever you decide, I'll take the heat for it. He's like, I'm leaving it to you. And I'm proud of Tashigi because we love her. And
yes, it is known.
So, Bradley, where do you think Smoker is going? Like, what do you think he's going to go do right now?
Yeah, so I kind of have to speculate on this, right? Because clearly he would be very valuable in the situation in Alubarna right now, because he probably has a good idea of what, or at least a much better idea of what the whole situation is right now. I think he knows that Crocodile is kind of fucking this country over. He gives Tashigi the orders to take the troops to Alubarna, and I think he even says that they should call in like every available Navy fleet to come here. But he says he's going out to sea. He has something he needs to do. And as for what that could be, man, I'm trying to decide, because I can't. My immediate thought is like, what could he be going to do that's more important right now than stopping the catastrophe in the capital?
Guess we'll find out.
I guess we'll find out.
Hey, you were asking when we were playing Pirate Warriors what is on the back of Smoker's jacket, and I said justice, and I wasn't sure, but it's confirmed here. Yeah, it's his justice.
Yeah, there you go. Then we kind of look back at the Royal Guard and the rebels, and man, they're getting really close to the battle starting.
Cannons are coming out.
And then we see the king with Mr. Four, whom I love, and Merry Christmas, who I hate.
She's great.
I mean, she's great, but she's a bitch.
Yeah, but she's great.
She's a good bitch. And then, like, man, the ensuing pages after this are so good. Like, those who lament war, those who fight, those who incite war, just like showing all these different groups. and their motivations. Like this is the last calm before the storm.
I was just about to say this is very much King Cobra setting us into the climax.
Yeah,
With all the sides.
we even show the map with the arrows of the direction everyone is going, and it's all pointing to the same spot for the like everyone's been moving around.
That's really cool.
For the first time, we're all going to the same spot, and that spot has the swords on it. Like this chapter is saying the final battle starting.
That's fucking rad. I only noticed now because as I was flipping through with you, I was noticing they're jumping all around the country. That's really cool.
Man, it is crazy.
But wait,
Tashigi gets confirmed in the question corner as being 21.
But wait,
then we move on to chapter 180.
Okay. Luffy came back. He was a zombie.
Well, yeah, he's not dead, but how could he be?
But we get more of that in 180.
Yeah. In Luffy's like quote unquote dying moments, of all the things that Crocodile said to him, the sentence that comes to Luffy's mind is Crocodile saying, "I outclass you as a pirate."
And Yuba will die.
Boom. Well, yeah, that too. But which did you think about first?
It's a good like motivational thing for Luffy. Like hey, he doesn't want to be outclassed as a pirate, and B, he promised to save this city. And those are the two things on his mind at the moment.
And that's really cool because I mean, again, Crocodile's big thing has been mocking Luffy for his inexperience and just how naive he is, and he's also stepping on his promise. So this has got to be real personal for our boy.
And then Luffy gets groped by Miss All Sunday.
Joe is jealous.
Nico Robin.
Mm-hmm.
She saves him from the quicksand, and we get questions from her.
Right.
Why do you fight as one of those whose name is D? Which I'm just not going to speculate because I think it's cool, but I obviously just don't have enough information to know what the whole D thing is about.
I'll take a guess. I'm sure some people.
There's no. I don't have clues to go on. I don't know what the thing is. When I get more information, I would be glad to try to venture a guess here. But I think Luffy isn't really in a state to answer her, so she's like, okay, whatever. It's not even worth asking right now.
Basically.
Pell shows back up, and he's like, I know your ability now, so I'm gonna fuck you up.
Yo.
But things don't really go that way.
No.
She's basically just like, I'm not really worried. She's gonna take off on the Acceligator, which I didn't actually read the creature's name the first time. And that's an awesome name.
It's the second fastest animal in Alabasta.
Yeah.
What's the first?
The first is Karoo, or is it the crab?
It's
like the Karoo species might be the
Karoo, right?
It's Karoo's duck species. I
yeah,
believe.
yeah, spot-billed ducks. Don't sleep on our boy.
I love boys.
Also, holy shit, Igram's alive.
Holy shit, no one dies in One Piece.
No one dies in One Piece ever.
See, I make that joke with Worm, but that's very real in One Piece.
I like One Piece's thing that these people keep coming back because I love the characters.
However, flashback people get fucked. Ugh.
Yeah, you're right.
What are your thoughts about her of Miss All Sunday saving Luffy?
It's kind of strange. Well, actually, I don't know if strange is the right word. I think it's clear from like, I don't even know if I'd be able to cite why I felt this way, but in a lot of her interactions with Crocodile, I got the vibe that she wasn't necessarily as into the whole plan as he was. Obviously, she's going along with it.
That's such a funny way to word that. She's not as into it, you know.
Like, I don't know if I'd be able to point to a piece of dialogue that made me think that way, but maybe it's just like the way she looks.
I don't think this is worth speculating on because, again, she clearly has a motivation there. She mentions the Will of D, and clearly we don't have enough yet to really know. But we know she's gotta be something related to that. She's asking these questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
I
just
think she
want
had
to know
more
what
going on
Bradley's
than
thinking.
here. Or like,
Ducks.
yeah, yeah. The holy shit, Egrim's alive. We're about to have Cataclysm War. Um, there's kind of a quick crisis where they're like, "Oh no, the crab's not going to be able to go over the river." But then they're like, "Wait, look at Nami's boobs," and the crab's like, "I can do this," and then he can't do this, and then they're gonna get eaten by fish, and then the Kung Fu Jugons come back, and they're my
Yeah.
favorite characters. I just remember like when we talked about them, I was like, "This is One Piece, so obviously they're gonna come back," but I didn't know how, and
Chekhov's Jugongs.
I'm very glad about it. And
Mhm.
then Karoo comes in with his squadron, which like, of course, there's a squadron of these guys.
Why? Of course.
Like it's One Piece. There has
Yeah,
to be, right?
that's
all
actually
unique.
the answer.
It's a squadron of everything.
Yep.
There's more varieties in their ducks than the females in One Piece.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I would actually
Um,
try it on these ducks.
Yeah.
I will say Miss Doublefinger looks distinctly different from your average Nami,
It's true.
yeah, she does.
mostly because of her hair and lipstick.
Man, I have to say, I really like the way Oda presents Miss Merry Christmas interrupting Mr. Four, because like it would be really easy to have him have like a totally separate, like it would be easy to have like a speech bubble where he says like the first few letters and then there's like a hyphen, and then she has like a non-overlapping speech bubble where she like interrupts him, but like her actual speech bubble is covering up his. And I think that's just like a really good way to show that.
Yeah.
That's been happening this entire time, and
Yeah.
I love it.
It's really good.
Mhm.
Fun fact, 30% of Shonen Jump's readership was girls at the time this volume came out.
That's pretty good, I'd say.
Yeah.
Hey.
That's your trivia from the question corner.
Thank you, Bradley. Very cool.
Um,
Big plays happen in the next chapter if you got to it.
yeah. Now comes the time when I tell you guys I did not finish the rest of the 950 plus chapters of One Piece this week.
Disappointment.
This is where we cut off this week. I kind of decided to end here because I feel like starting within the next chapter or two, there are going to be no breaks until the Alabasta arc is done.
You're going to want to finish Alabasta next time you read. Trust me.
Yeah, I was like, this is probably like the last breathing room the characters get before the arc ends. I speculate. So
You're immediately right. Like you're gonna love next chapter.
So we did, man. We got a lot out of One Piece this week.
I'll say that's our longest segment since like we covered every single MCU film.
Yeah. So holy shit. One Piece is good. Everyone go read it.
Yeah, I guess it's okay if we can talk about it for an hour and 20.
Yeah. If you were listening to this for some reason and haven't experienced One Piece, then I'd go
Please.
read it.
There's also going to be big gaps of this podcast as One Piece gets better and better that you just won't be able to listen to. So why don't you just jump on the train? That was your Don't Give It Up Bradley for the night. Bradley, why don't you
Should
tell
meet
us?
yourself again.
Shut up, they don't know. Why don't you tell us about a little game you've been playing?
Yes. So, a game I've waited for a very long time for came out this week. It is called Minoria. It is a spiritual successor to a series of games called Momodora. I waited for it for a very long time because Momodora 4 is one of my favorite games.
I played it and I talked about it on the podcast even.
Yes, we have visited it here on the podcast before. Minoria came out last night. I stayed up pretty much all night playing it. It's a lot of fun. So I kind of want to talk about what it does well I think I need to talk about what it does well as a spiritual successor and what it does not do well. Because there are things that I could be happier with.
I got one question before we begin. Did you beat it? Because I know Momodora is really short.
I did not beat it, but I speculate I'm near the end just because of where the story in it is at right now. And also, Momodora is like a 4 to 6 hour game, and people have been saying this is like a 7 to 8 hour game. So, like, I should be near the end.
Gotcha.
So like the biggest difference between this and the Momodora games is it has a much more hands-on approach to story. Like there's there's a lot more named characters. There's actual cutscenes, which there were like cutscenes in quotation marks with my hands. In Momodora, this is like fully fledged. Like they're actually trying to tell a story here. Which like the Momodora games had a story, but it was mostly something you'd only get like if you read all the item descriptions across like the four games and were like paying attention to what enemies look like stuff from other games, which is a fun way to do it. But I think they just wanted to be more hands-on in this game. So as far as what it does good as a spiritual successor, Momodora 4, Reverie Under the Moonlight, to I guess clarify, it's kind of more of a Super Nintendo era Metroidvania, which is good because that era had really good Metroidvanias, I think, or generally good. I think.
Was I'd say it was simplistic but charming, with some cool builds you can make to differentiate your playstyle, and pretty well designed bosses.
Yeah. So Momodora 4, it's really short, pretty simple. You kind of have like one set of melee attacks, and you have a bow. Most of the variety of the game would be from equipping different item combinations. Minoria wanted to kind of bring us into the modern day a little bit more. Different weapons have different move sets. You can parry. There's a lot more different spells that in some ways kind of functions like a much more simplified version of the like spirits from Bloodstained.
Ooh,
but
fun.
I mean much more simplified. Don't get me wrong. I do like it. It's kind of fun. There's a lot of Easter eggs to the old series. Like one of the most iconic bosses in Momodora is Pardoner Fennel. She's this nun with a red sword who does these spin slashes and has lightning.
She was dope. One of the harder bosses too.
Yeah, she's a lot of fun. And near the beginning of this game, if you own Momodora 4, then you can get her sword and use her moves, which is fucking awesome. And it's even more fun because in this game you play as a nun, like Pardoner, Pardoner Fennel.
That's cool because I guess that means there's just more moves to do in general. Because the one like big combat complaint with Momodora is that you have like one basic combo and your arrows, and then you just have to apply modifiers to those.
Yeah, and it's even more cool because like they also added more stuff to the enemies, like there's stagger gauges as opposed to like just health gauges. So there's like more to keep your eye on. There's like a leveling system which Momodora 4 did not have.
Okay, this is getting very Igavania now.
Yeah,
the
and
Igarashi Castlevanias.
The thing that I thought was really interesting is it has one of the elements that also like extremely impressed me from Bloodstained, where the movement options you get from different weapons can really change where you can go, because there's like one really like long horizontal room in this game, and there's a platform near the end of it that would take you to the next room immediately, but you can't normally reach it. But after you clear that room for the first time, soon after you can get a weapon that allows you to do like an kind of upward spin slash, and it then lets you jump high enough to get on that platform. So the first time you go through that room, you have to do it the normal way, but every subsequent time, as long as you have that weapon equipped, you can basically just skip the room, which I'd really like. So yeah, that's kind of a lot of the things that it did to make the series more modern as a spiritual successor. I will say, and I've seen this sentiment echoed a lot of other places, visually, frankly, I don't think this game looks as good as the last one.
I haven't seen it in motion, but the screenshots have seemed okay. But I guess Momodora 4 was just so good looking.
Yeah,
it looked very cute.
I think the key here is that Momodora 4's like pixel art animations were extremely fluid, but this game, the animations are like very rigid. Like the characters move very much like stick figures. So
I feel like you particularly have a dislike for that because I remember showing you Odin Sphere, which is everyone knows Odin Sphere is a beautiful game, but brother's like, ugh,
yeah,
animation. So yeah, this maybe it's like one of those style of animations.
yeah. I like the art style itself. I do love the art style, and even Igarashi, who makes these Igavanias, he said he loved the art style. So I guess there's that endorsement. But yeah, I mean, I still love the game. I bought it on every available platform as soon as I could,
What's
and I
it
will.
what's it out on and how much?
It is on Steam right now, and on it's going to be releasing on Nintendo Switch. And I didn't even look at how much it cost because I was going to buy it regardless.
Cool.
But it is fun. I'm going to continue to buy Bomb Services games because they make bomb games, and
Allow me to check it out
yeah.
some night this week. Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
No. Hi, this is the Willer interruption quickie. We didn't have this on the schedule, but I forgot about it.
This just in. Willard, take it away.
I played Dragon Quest XI, which I have been waiting for so long.
Yeah.
I've been really wanting to sink my teeth into this game. I've been waiting for the Switch version, which is slightly less pretty looking than the PS4 version, but it has a bunch of upgrades, so I definitely think it's worth the buy. I'm playing the demo right now, which is just like the first 10 hours of the game for free, so everyone needs to check this out. And the game starts off pretty like normal RPG as far as combat goes, but it from what I've heard and from what I've already seen, it expands greatly as you start unlocking more moves and running into more enemies where they start doing some actually interesting strategies. There's something just really charming about the way combat works in Dragon Quest games from what I've seen. It's like it's not like Final Fantasies where it's like big numbers and stats don't really matter as much. My party, I only have two characters and they're already so distinct from one another, and all the damage numbers are like low and you have to strategize around it, which I've always appreciated. But man, the world and story just immediately grabbed me. Like the story is really really fun so far. There's this sequence leading up to the title like drop where I was just like my mouth was open by the end of it, where stuff gets more and more intense and hectic for the main characters leading up to like this really climactic finish, that it was just a really good show of the relationship of the characters even though they just met. The Toriyama art style is gorgeous. All the enemies are really cute. I just fought a little demon who hides in a treasure chest and turns people into dogs. I'm having a great time, and I'm definitely going to be talking about this in the future. And you guys need to play it for sure. It's free. It's free.
Yeah. It's interesting because like Dragon Quest has always had a following in the West, but I feel like it's kind of been more niche compared to other RPG titles. But like, this is the most hype I've ever seen for a Dragon Quest game in the US.
It's finally stuck. Just like how Yakuza 0 caused Yakuza to finally blow up in the West, relatively speaking, I feel like this is the one that's going to make Dragon Quest another big Japanese title.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping for the best. I'm sure this is going to sell really well because everyone's really impressed at the demo. I've heard an interesting thing too where like Dragon Quest games stories end up being their own sequels. Like the story takes so many turns and twists that they end up being sequels to themselves, and I'm like, that's a really interesting way to do your big RPG series. I can't wait to get further into the story.
I really, really want to play Dragon Quest. I don't like. I've already like committed myself to buying the game, but it's just my current situation. I don't think it's worth It's not going to be worth it to buy it at the time. It makes me really sad.
It's a big game, and look, if you play the demo, the save carries over. I should have mentioned that. True. So you get to at least get started.
Does the game come out this week, or is it next week? Or
it comes out in like 3 weeks.
Okay.
On a little side note, Yakuza 3 finally came out in the West in the PS4 version, and all the other ones are coming. by early next year. So please look forward to me finally talking about Yakuza on this podcast in the future.
And then
Yeah.
look forward in 2 weeks when Willer and I discuss our new favorite game of the year.
The Stand Cops.
Oh no, I was talking about Iceborne.
Holy shit! Really? It's oh man, so close.
Iceborne comes out not next Friday, but the Friday after.
Yeah, and Stand Cops as well
And
as a bonus.
Oh, God.
Very nice. Also, the Yu-Gi-Oh game came out, and I still got to beat Judgment, and Dragon Quest is coming around, and Jesus.
Anyways, this is the end of the video game hour. Go buy some games.
Go play some free demo.
He got it planned out.
I'm
Yeah.
so excited.
All right, me and Joe are very excited. Joe, what are we talking about?
So today we're talking about probably my God, it might be my number one favorite TV series that I've ever watched, and that's The Good Place.
It is so Joe's been recommending me this, and
For about a year now, I think.
for a little while.
Yeah.
And I always throw my friends bones. I give them a lot of suggestions because I generally play and watch and view more things than my friends do. So whenever they got a suggestion for me, I try to stick with it, which is why I'm forever in the wormhole. But this is Joe's been getting his turn lately, where I finally got around to starting it. The thing with Good Place is, I knew the season 1 twist, which I won't say right now what it is. But I knew that before even starting. So I told Joe, I'm unsure if this show is really going to wow me, because I don't know how much it's relying on that twist. Needless to say, it didn't matter that I knew that twist. This show is incredible.
It does not matter you know that twist. It really doesn't. Because the show builds on its own.
It really doesn't, because this show breaks itself at every possible turn to further explore some really unique themes and storytelling. The Good Place, I've watched 2 seasons now. Season 3 came out on Netflix tonight, so guess what I'm fucking doing, boys? Right after this. I'm so excited to see what happens. It's a show that is a comedy that has drama level twists, basically. And fantastic character writing. It's the core strength of the show, and I've said it on the podcast and to you guys. Good character writing is the easiest way to get into my heart. It is my number one favorite thing in storytelling. And The Good Place has that. It's avoiding this problem, despite the premise, I guess, of the show. It's avoiding this problem of having the main characters just be assholes. I don't like a show where everyone's an asshole. And in here, it's like everyone is just so incredibly human.
And so we'll have to discuss this on when we finish season 3 and we go into our in-depth talk about it. But the show does a really good job, especially in season 1, of showing you of really taking the expectations you have and really turning them on their heads, especially for the characters of the people. Because by the end of season 1, you begin to realize oh, these people are awful, just bad.
I wouldn't say that.
Well,
Eleanor is
they are very flawed.
Yeah, Eleanor is problematic.
Yeah.
But I love her so dearly.
And then the show also has Michael and Janet,
who are some of the most interesting characters maybe ever written. No joke. I was talking to Joe about it yesterday because it dawned on me. I don't think I can think of a single character like Janet from this show. Yeah. She's immensely interesting, and Michael is maybe the driving force of, I think, some of the show's strongest themes.
The show really is so season 1 is very much about Eleanor, I feel. Season 2 is much more about Michael. And just developing his character more, and of him, it's such an interesting dynamic in a kind of existential thought process, because you have all these Janet is this super powerful being, but
She's
her arc that
subservient to other beings,
yeah.
and her arc is just building on that in a direction where like nothing like this has really been done.
Mm-hmm. And it really like thinks about like where like if you have these ultra powerful beings, but you introduce this really human element to them, how does that affect their thinking process? And what's it like for them to not have that human element in them?
Yeah.
And it's just, it's so good. And season 3 does that even more.
I can't
And
believe it, Joe. I can't believe you.
it's oh my god! Like season 3, there are moments where I was just like, I can't live on if this show ends. Like I don't have an ending.
Oh
Like,
no.
like so thinking about the show, it's 3 seasons are out, they're all on Netflix. Season 4 is coming out on my birthday in a month.
Are we gonna be together?
We'll be in Disney World.
Joe. Joe, we can watch it together.
We could.
I can find my pirate ways to find it. Don't worry about it.
I have Hulu. It'll show up on Hulu the next day or whatever.
Oh really? Oh fuck
Yeah.
it. I also have Hulu. We'll do it legally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but season 4 is the final season of the show, and when you get to and at the end of season 3, it's a perfect ending to it because it really comes full circle.
Really?
And yes, like I'm so excited for season 4.
Stop hyping me up, you little whore. You know I'm already in there. You basic, Joe.
I know, you're basic.
Oh man, let's talk about the humor a little bit because the visual gags in this show we're talking like cartoon level gags that are funnier than they could ever be in a cartoon because they're done in live action in such a funny way. It's really hard to explain.
I didn't realize this until like I just now thought about it, but the CGI in the show is like perfect in terms of what it needs to be.
Yeah, it's terrible in just the right way.
Yeah.
There's just a scene where Janet is talking and a giant like sub falls, and I'm talking about like the sandwich sub, and that sounds like super random, but like it's just so fucking funny in the moment. And all the little dialogue choices, like how they can't swear and they gotta say fork instead of fuck, it's just so endearing. I love all the characters except Jason, but even then, Jason has hilarious lines here and there. Oh man,
the other thing is like they also do a really good job. Like there's one that's the trolley episode in season 2.
Yeah, that one's so good.
That kind of takes apart like of how ridiculous that whole conundrum is if you really act it out, and it's so great.
And then thematically, it extends on even.
Yeah.
So one thing we haven't mentioned about this show is that it's thematically linked to moral relativism and just morality as a whole, where one of the characters is an ethics professor and he's integral to the plot of the show. Like a lot of the plot revolves around him, and what he can provide to the group. And so you have a lot of episodes touching on ethics and different different ideologies of ethics, and kind of using that to explore the characters in a different way. Not to mention all the other aspects in which the show breaks itself and lets you see these characters in ways that no other show could ever show you the same character. Like, we see so many sides of the characters of Eleanor and Tahani and Jason and Michael, and it's only possible because of how this show is uniquely telling its story. So, like, there is some master level genius shit going on here.
Yeah, like it's mind-boggling to me, like how well written this show is.
The more you think about it, the better it gets.
And it's a show that has a lot of heart, and it feels like it's a show that really is like Willer said, I mentioned before, like this is a show, the way it's presenting is the only way I think it could tell what it's trying to say.
And I think that's a really big plus to any story. Like, I think that gives you a huge bonus point in my book.
I also realized we never actually talked about what The Good Place was plot-wise.
Should we?
Yeah. We
should talk about, the premise.
At least season... Okay, so the premise of the show is basically Eleanor is a very flawed human being. She dies, and through the best way to describe it, in clerical error,
yes,
on
Afterlife's part,
yes, she ends up going to the good place rather than the bad place where she belongs.
And
So
so
now
the
she
way
has,
it works is the good place has a very small section of humans that did everything really well, and everyone else ends up in the bad place.
yes. And like you're determined by like a point system that no one really knows how it operates, and like, but you're just basically told like this is where all the good people go. And Eleanor has to try to blend in with everyone and really learn about what it means to be a good person.
But the problem is, by just her being in this good place, problems arise just from the universe kind of collapsing on itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the story kind of takes off from. The other main characters are Chidi, the ethics professor, probably my favorite character. He cracks me up so much. You got Tahani, who is a self-absorbed babe. You got Jason, who's a dummy. And you got Michael.
Jason's a monk. What are you talking about?
Yes, Jason's a monk. Yep. And then you got Michael and Janet and a couple of other auxiliary characters. Pretty small core group, but it has to be this way because of how much they're exploring each character.
Yeah, it's just so good, and it's so hard because like we could discuss like the because really the meat of the show.
We can't talk about the meat of the show without big spoils.
Yeah, and because I feel like this really was generally like they were like, all right, this is a show. Season one's going to be this, so that season two is this because you need season one to be this way for season two to
So
have
then
it.
season 3 can be this.
Yeah,
By the way, they do like 100 seasons in one episode. It's fucking wild.
yeah, like because that was one of the like craziest things.
That
to me. I
was
like, oh.
insane.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I get what like the show's gonna be about. Every season's of like a thing, but then like they're like, no. We're like, oh,
Fuck you. How dare you predict anything?
yeah. Like I literally was like, I don't know where the show's going now.
I don't even care, man. I'm just along for the ride. I had a theory of season 2, and I was like, Joe, this is what's gonna happen, and I was super wrong.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I
would have been actually upset if that was what in the season 2 was.
could have lived with it. It was just way better what we did get.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Bradley, please watch the first few episodes of this. They're only 20-minute episodes, and there's only 13 per season.
I mean, I will watch it after the
Hundreds
billion
of other
other the
things.
billion other shows.
Well, I need Bradley to watch Barry for me.
Yeah, that's the next show I'm going to be watching
Fine.
when I eventually decide to watch TV again.
Bradley, let's watch Barry together. It'll be a fresh, new, exciting experience.
Y'all live next to each other now, so you can do it
It's
from
true.
comfortable couches.
Yes, from my couch and Bradley's couch, I'll leave the window open.
You can shout at each
and
other.
we start at the same time.
Yeah.
I think that's good for the good place, but man,
Ugh.
this is a top 5 show for me right now already.
I think we'll come back to it after you finish season 3, and we'll have a more in-depth spoiler discussion about it because the show is so worth picking apart. But I really don't want to like discuss it without spoiling.
Oh, Joe, I got fat notes. I've been taking notes as I'm watching. I'm gonna parse them down into coherent thoughts because there's so much.
By the way, this is the only TV show that I have watched front and back like 4 or 5 times.
Damn, I mean it's such a pleasant watch.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's really easy to sit down and the pacing is super fast, but like not too fast where you're losing out on anything.
Every episode feels very purposeful, which I really really like.
The show is sitting right now, like we're talking like there's Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul sharing their number 1 spots. You got Parks and Rec, then you got this show with the full intent of taking over Parks and Rec at this point.
Yeah, like it might do the same for me. It's
oof.
All right.
That's the good place. Please go watch it if you have Netflix or Hulu or pirating. But don't do that because that'll send you to the bad place.
Please support, even though like I'm happy the show is ending, like it's getting a finale. But please support the creators because I would love if we got more television like this.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Also, Kristen Bell's a babe. I love her. I have a huge crush on her.
But Janet though.
Busty Alexa. But Tahani though, the skyscraper beauty.
Mm-hmm. All right.
But Jason though. All right, let's get out of here.
Do we want to do our hypothetical scenario before Joe GTFOs?
I guess we'll give Joe the night off. What are we gonna call our portion of the cast? The Last Train Home cast.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
All right,
That'll fit the
Bradley,
theme.
take it away.
All right. So it's midnight. You're walking down an alley, right?
Mm-hmm.
No one around. It's really peaceful. You're having fun on your alley walk. And at the end of the alley, you see a bunch of figures kind of crowd around, and they're kind of making cute little noises.
They're small?
Yeah, as you get closer, you realize it is a squad of kung fu Jugons.
Oh, God.
But then you see that they're not looking at you, they're looking past you. And back behind you, on the other end of the alley, is a squad of the Karoo duck.
The spot-billed ducks.
And these two squads of animals are about to have a war.
Are they doing like the West Side Story snaps towards each other?
Yeah, they're doing that, and they want to know which side that you side with, because they're gonna fight to the death, and you have to pick a side.
Oh God!
So which side is gonna win?
I feel like the Jugons would just whoop the Ducks' butt.
Hell no, dude.
No.
It might depend on who trained them.
Nah, the ducks are plot relevant, so they're better. I'm Duck Squad.
Implying the Jugons aren't the most plot relevant characters.
I'm trying to hide that fact from you.
No, but like in all serious note, I think the Jugons could just whoop the Ducks' butt, the Ducks' ass. Like it's no question.
But
like,
they're so
Karoo's
fast.
a coward.
Karoo is not a coward.
Yeah, but yes, he is.
He's a good boy.
He's a weakling.
He fought Mr. 3 and Mr. 5 with Usopp and Luffy. He was super into it.
I don't know.
He's
I'm
not
glad
a
this
coward.
question sparked discussion.
He ran all the way to Alabarna to warn the king.
The Ducks beat up a fucking fish.
Also, hold up. Ducks and geese are the most asshole-ish, aggressive animals on the planet Earth. You really think they're not gonna fuck these kung fu dugongs up?
I'm saying they're gonna try. I'm also saying birds have very fragile bones.
Joe. You can't fucking beat a goose. You just can't.
You can't beat a kung fu sea lion or whatever it's called.
In real life, a normal goose could kill us all. So you really think these super ducks can't? Like you're really underselling them.
Geese, they're ducks.
Ducks could also kill us.
Nah.
They can probably use Zeta Flare if
I'm
they
going with
really
the
need.
Dugons.
All right, well you chose your side.
I didn't think that question would have even 10% of that
No,
debate.
Bradley, what side are you on? You gotta let us know.
I'd probably just lay down and let them kill me.
That's not even. They're not even angry at you. They're just trying to see what side you're on.
No, if you don't pick a side, it's like, I don't know. They're like, if you're not with us, you're against us.
Man, in a couple of chapters, you'll know why you were wrong. You should have picked a side. All right,
geez.
Joe, get your butt out of here.
Yeah. All right. Have fun with Worm.
Oh, we will.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. It's time for We Got Worm. No. It's, shit. I can't believe I just said that.
You did it on purpose.
No. They're way better, like I said. We're Take That, You Worm.
There you go. That's better.
It's only a few words different.
I gotta clarify. The last episode was Arc 12, minus the very last interlude of it, because I think we just didn't realize that there was an interlude after that.
Yeah, I thought I got around to it. But you know what? Last time we talked for so long, and Joe died for so long. He's not here this time. There won't be a revive gag because I put Worm at the end this time to be nice to him.
Yeah, to kind of apologize to the people who only listen to the singular Worm videos. Like we record all of our videos at once in one large segment, which is the actual Roundabout cast, and then Willer splits it up into the Roundabout shortcuts. Which one of the shortcuts usually get more viewership than the whole thing because people usually have like a particular series they want to go watch. So to anyone wondering why we don't necessarily do more per week, it's because we're also talking about like 5 other things and we don't want to sit here all day.
We want to be a variety podcast because we're variety people. So on the flip side, for anyone who comes to the podcast, and then Worm is the hardest series that we have because not only did we start on arc 10 just off the bat, but also it's confusing to just listen to because of that. Even if you're listening to our One Piece, you can follow Bradley's One Piece opinions since the beginning. But from where it's like, yeah, here's 10, here's all these characters, but then it's also super long, so it goes both ways.
Roundabout shortcuts are a good call because in any given week, like there might be 2 or 3 things that someone knows and is able to listen to, but they probably wouldn't know everything that we talk about. So
I want to apologize to Kyle, who listens to all of our podcasts and probably has to skip half of it.
I wonder if Jamal knows everything we talk about.
I do have a comment shout out of the day.
Oh shit! All right.
Oh, damn, I don't have the video pulled up. Do you, by any chance?
I do not.
We just posted our big Arc 12 today, and someone left a comment that explained how Mannequin, like there was a Word of God line that I missed that just kind of explains that Mannequin got there through Cherish, like you said. By there I mean he got to where Taylor was, just based on like there was less suffering in the area, which means someone was getting help there, and that person was our good friend Thomas Pettier.
Yay!
Thank you for leaving that super helpful comment.
Classic Todd also on our Reddit post. Says he appreciates our different perspective, and kind of liked your take on Hook Wolf, because I think he was also kind of in the same camp I initially was, where it's just like,
man, fuck Hook Wolf.
Yeah, just fuck this guy. Which, also fuck Hook Wolf, but there's also some amount of depth to him.
I'm feeling like he must do something very atrocious later on, because I feel like, or it's just also I forgot all of part 1. So it's either one or the other, but he's all right.
I guess for a Nazi overlord, he's
cooler than Kaiser. Kaiser just felt like a little prick.
Yeah, maybe he is. Yeah, Kaiser's probably a worse wolf.
Worse Nazi.
Yeah.
All right. Having this at the end without Joe, it's kind of more lax. It's not bad.
Yeah. No, it works.
But we're gonna jump into it. I did 12 Interlude B, which was the Jamie interlude. This one was pretty interesting. Bradley, you said that this one especially, you thought that the audiobook might jump around too much, and it definitely does. It goes from like time skip to time skip with like a second pause. There's no waiting.
Yeah, there's more than one thing that I don't necessarily like about, I do appreciate the effort of the audiobook. I think they did a really good job adapting this long ass story into an audiobook.
Yeah.
If probably the biggest gripe I would have is that chapters like this that do a lot of skipping around, in the actual text, there's very clear breaks.
There's a little square and a space.
Yeah. In the actual audiobook, they just seamlessly go from one sentence to the next.
Now thankfully, it's written well enough to where I was able to catch myself pretty quickly after every time jump.
Yeah.
There was even one time jump backwards and then back forward, but I think I was able to keep it on track.
There you go.
So Jamie here is meeting with a doctor called Mother.
Yes.
Good game series, but she's giving out powers through Cauldron, which we have mentioned before.
Yeah, and I guess this would be the first time we've
seen their operatives in action.
Oh, yeah. And it's kind of an interesting setup we have here, because we've heard of this organization, but we don't even know what an organization that gives people powers would look like, what their motivations would be, how they do it. And we see a lot going on here. And
we still don't really get a glimpse, because she's doing this in some secret barn. So this is clearly a dummy facility. They must have many of them. She mentions that if you break your breach of contract, they'll try not to kill you, but it has the big implications that they will if they need to. There's just all this shady stuff with everything she says, and Jamie's trying to process it all.
Yeah, and it's very clear that this is really secretive, because they're able to open these portals to their facility pretty much anywhere they want. Like I think she said they did it in the barn and also in her room. And then when
Oh
she's in the
yeah.
facility, she like looks at her GPS and it says she's off the Ivory Coast.
Okay,
So
so this is clearly power. It's not. At first in my mind I was like, oh, this is technology based, but I think this is like a different kind of power than
yeah, and
unless
man,
it could still be technology maybe.
and our girl is she tries to kind of get a read on these people, like if she wants to decide whether these people are like good people or villains, and she can't really get a read. She's like, "Oh, well, if I don't do what you say, you're gonna kill me." She's like, "Oh, no, no, we try to avoid killing people," and it's like that doesn't really help me decide what
Yeah,
to think of people.
she goes through with it. They have this little section where they explain like they look at all these graphs and all these variables to explain what kind of power you can get. Which I could just feel the Bradley boner with all these explanations with like the science between how they like graphed out what kind of power you're gonna get for what your budget is per power. It was all very interesting though, even if it
Yeah,
flew over my head a little bit. Um, just you can tell like they have it down to a science.
yeah, and clearly, like, there's no way someone's gonna get the full science of that from just this chapter. We're still kind of doing the worm technique of like drip feeding the big mysteries to people.
Right. Um. So one thing worth mentioning is her motivation for getting the powers. It's to stop a villain called Madcap who interrupted her dad's research in the past because he breaks people out on their way to the birdcage. Um, that's right.
Yeah, and the from there the chapter kind of evolves into
Her
their
future
role.
after she becomes a powered.
Yeah,
She joins the Protectorate as one of her three favors to the Cauldron.
yeah, and
Which,
she's surprised at it at first. She's like, "Oh, I mean, that's an easy favor. Yeah, I'll be a hero."
but she's also aware that's like, are you gonna ask me to like betray them at some point? Um, and you get this kind of quick back and forth of her keeping her. She keeps challenging Madcap, um, but eventually he talks himself into the Protectorate. What is her hero name again? It's Agony. No,
Battery.
that's the one. Battery and Assault is
Yeah,
they
and so
basically become a duo through this twist of fate. She ends up falling in love with him,
yeah,
and
and
becoming like a close partner with him.
yeah, it kind of evolves in a because like initially he's like, "Oh, I'll join, and we can just be assault and battery," and she's like, "Oh,
No, you're ruining my name retroactively.
yeah," she's like, "I hate it." And it kind of shows their relationship evolve where he's kind of like that guy who I feel like it's almost like a movie trope where it's like, oh, he's the guy and he was the bad guy, but
He's
secretly there's like a heart of gold deep down.
he's like a misogynist asshole, but like he does well with children, and he warms his way into her heart eventually.
And that's the thing. This actually was probably one of the most controversial chapters in the book.
Really, I
People,
guess I could see it.
yeah, people really did not like him. I guess like continually trying to win her affection after she didn't want it.
I
Um,
really like this because it was just a really realistic look at a. I guess not realistic, but like it just so happens that sometimes you get these weird, fucked up relationships, and just the ease, the smoothness that like it was presented. I was like, yeah, this is interesting.
yeah, I guess like I can totally see, like you said, like he does have those like very misogynist tendencies that I think is why the chapter became controversial in the way it did.
Yeah, but
Uh,
I mean the my take on stories is like
yeah,
racist and bastards and misogynists. They exist, right? So they're gonna be in the story in some sense
yeah.
if the story is trying to have a wide array of characters.
I think
But I thought he wasn't just that. He had like I guess a few other elements to make him a little more interesting.
yeah, I think the reason that like I never even considered that angle of this chapter the first time I read it, and I think maybe the reason for that is this kind of love story is such a trope at this point that I was like, oh yeah, it's the guy who was a bad guy, and then he becomes not a bad guy, and then he has a heart of gold, and then they fall
Yeah,
in love.
yeah, basically. But yeah, it just basically ends with she has to get Shatterbird and Siberian out of the city. That is her final request from Cauldron.
Yeah,
And
and
the chapter ends with like every action has a reaction kind of thing.
yeah, and I think that's like the big.
Takeaway.
I think that's like the big drop in this chapter because, like, for the most part, this is kind of a contained
Yeah.
thing. Like, I guess it does serve to let us look at this Cauldron organization we've heard about, but as far as how this chapter relates to what our characters are doing, this is like, oh shit, this organization in some way is trying to ensure the success of either these two individuals, or they owe these two individuals a favor, or they want them alive for something. We
Well,
can't.
my mind was, oh, these guys got their powers through Cauldron.
Yeah,
They're
I
part
think
of the
that's
fold.
I think that's the. I think that's what my first thought was. Um,
Interesting that Siberian, the scariest motherfucker, is a Cauldron baby. If that is the case,
if that is the case.
which it is.
Teehee.
Let's move on to
Yeah,
13.1 in the
yeah.
spirit of pacing.
I don't think there was a whole lot else to say on that chapter.
It was
It's
I,
kind of
I,
one of those ones
I
where
liked it.
you can just take it at face value. I think.
I did like it quite a bit. 13.1, the big parts of it are Jack laying down his rules. He sends them over to the good guys. He's explaining how they're all gonna test the participants. They can't get in the way of each other's tests. You can't leave the city or everyone dies. You can get as much help as you need for the tests. There's time limits and time bonuses and deductions and all this. Remind me again. This comes up later, and I think I forgot how it works with them testing each other, but I think you explained it to me. Basically, you can go test any one of is it 6 or 7 participants?
I guess there's 6 candidates, if I recall.
Yeah, it's kind of iffy because some of them didn't get candidates, and Oni Lee died in the process, and so I think it's like 6, and it's weird also because one of them is Noelle, so it's like how is she even going to be in play? But basically, you explained to me that they can target anyone in any order, and that they're not expected to get all 6 of them within the 3-hour period. It's more about just doing as best as they can.
Yeah, because like the way I view it is this is a challenge for the 9, just like it's a challenge for the contestants, because the 9 always test people, but they've never made it a game where they give themselves time limits before.
Yeah, what's the point of on their end? I must have missed it, but like, what is the drawback if they lose, or like the last placing person in their challenges? What happens? Is Jack gonna slash them open?
The win condition for our contestants is that they,
I
they
mean,
need a certain amount of candidates alive at the end.
right. I mean,
So,
for Jack, why is he putting these time limits on? Is it just because of Tattletale luring him into it? Or is this some part of game that he plays with the 9 as well?
well, this is the first time they've ever done this game, and this is what he even talked about in his interlude, where Cherish is like, "Why would you even do this? Like, it gives you no advantage."
It's fun.
And basically, the reason he does anything is he finds it interesting.
It's fun.
And basically, yeah, they always test their candidates, but they've never given themselves time limits before. So it's kind of a challenge for them to try and test.
Right. Yeah, thinking back how they tested the other candidates, like their time limits were all over the place. Where it's like 3 days getting chased by Siberian, or just drink blood within this time limit, or just change yourself within a time. So it's always been a little different.
So basically, it's kind of a challenge to try to test all these people within your time limit. And the drawback for not testing all of them, or at least eliminating some, is that they have a higher chance of all the nominees surviving to the end and the 9 losing.
Right.
Which, of course, we have to remember Jack didn't have to do this. He's doing it out of the graciousness of his heart.
Yeah, that's why.
If the nominees win, it's basically just the 9 won't come back for, I guess, a few years. Like,
Right. I think the wording was you don't come back for 5 years or something like that.
yeah. So
So they're just buying as
that,
much time as they can.
yeah, it's always important to remember that Jack doesn't have to do this.
Yeah.
Like, he's doing it because he thinks it'll be fun.
It's fun.
It's fun.
13.1 is a good chapter, but really not much that I want to say about it. It basically has some strategy meetings. We see Lisa's after effect. She always has a frown now. So that's a little design change, I'd say. And it basically just all building up to the exhaustion that this is all going to be at the end of the chapter, where they're about to have to fight Mannequin, and then they have to fight someone else immediately. They can't really go to sleep because they can show up at any time. It's going to go on for not 8 more times or so. So it's just the realization that, like, that this is the hardest task we could do.
Yeah, it's like they are kind of in the mode now where they're like, we're never gonna have a chance to rest again until this is over.
Right. Which is a horrifying thought.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you have to say about 13.1?
I feel like we usually have a little bit less to say about the .1 chapters just because they're usually kind of setting the stage for the rest of the arc. Like,
yeah,
here's
that
what
is
our
true.
characters are. Which I don't think is a bad thing at all.
Yeah.
Because we really, like, usually we're kind of dealing with whatever the aftermath of the end of the last arc was. So I think we can just kind of move forward.
13.2. Early on in this chapter, they start addressing the bitch situation, which no one's done yet. The fact that she was nominated and didn't tell anyone. Is she actually planning to join them? What's the deal? But she's not having any of it. She's not going to talk. Her thoughts are her own. She's being as difficult as ever. Bitch is horrible, and I love her.
Yeah, and like, we're gonna get to see a lot more of her throughout the rest of this arc, and I guess the Slaughterhouse-9 story arc. I kind of like some of these moments where we don't get to know what she's thinking, because we've seen what she initially thinks in her interlude when she got first introduced and nominated.
Super good.
So, like, you kind of have to wonder what she's thinking now. Like, is she still considering it? Is she just angry? Is she thinking about running away?
I feel like this dog is the big clincher here. It's like she's carrying it around. She's bringing it into super serious meetings that are making the team look bad as a result. So, like, is this dog, like, such a good gift to where she's considering working with the 9? And also the fact that Siberian kind of calls her out, as I recall. She didn't really speak, but, like, she basically bitch is someone who is wild by nature, so she should just join them.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell where she's at. I'm gonna say no, based on stuff that happens very soon. Any chance that she had to join is gonna go out the window.
I think that's a good call.
I think that's a decent guess. But onto this chapter, the remainder is checking up on Panacea, who they realize is one in Lisa's shelter. Lisa sees her, and they want to know what's up. Why is she there? They find out that she's one of the why do I want to say tributes? They might as well be.
They might as well be.
One of the screwed people. Taylor basically tries to get her to join the group. Panacea is feeling pretty down about herself. She feels like a villain after she kind of fucked up her sister for life. And it's been thoughts that have been in her for a long time. She's always been kind of almost irrationally afraid that she would be villainous like her father. And then it just became a self-fulfilling prophecy where she is now. In her mind. So I could see her joining after some of these events. That'll be interesting. Having a healer on the team means that Taylor and Gru can get more fucked up in future battles.
Yeah, and they really kind of have this whole argument with each other where I think throughout the entire Slaughterhouse-9 arc, and especially going forward, there's a lot of kind of parallels drawn between Taylor and Panacea, how they both have a actually pretty rigid idea of what right and wrong is, where I guess I should say there are some things that, oh man, how would you even put this? I think even Taylor in this chapter is like, holy shit, like you can do the right thing, and Panacea is like, no, I can't. Like they have a very harsh idea of like what heroes and villains are, and Taylor will say and has said in this arc that oh, no, like sometimes anything goes. Like I've kind of learned that morality can kind of be
Whatever I need it to be.
yeah, but I think in reality her and Panacea are very similar in that there are certain things that they always think are going to be wrong.
I think the easiest way to say it is that Panacea is just harder on herself. She's extremely hard on herself to where one slip up and she thinks of herself as a eternal villain like her dad was now.
Yeah.
While Taylor's like, "Oh, I could keep slipping up. It's okay. I got my justifications."
Is that like both of them have done bad things, but the very early Taylor in the story, when she started doing these things like robbing the bank, I think she didn't ever have the guilt or self-reflection
Right.
that Panacea has, and we see how much of a difference that makes.
Even in her, after like we came back in Arc 9 and she's kind of thinking on her, like reflecting more. She's not reflecting in a particularly guilty way. Like she's very dull to it. She's like, "Oh, I'm a little bit guilty, I guess, but that's life."
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good comparison, and I'm sure there will be internal conflicts, just like how she's shown some differences with Gru, where Gru is very self-centered, while she still wants to help people and be the nice villain if she can and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
But
forget all this because Mannequin shows up.
Mannequin's back.
Hey,
And,
my boy!
He's back for round 2.
This time he's got a gun.
He's got a big old gun, and he kind of got to modify himself a little bit, because I think she said, like, I think before she notices the gun, she's like, oh, his arms are different, and then it's like, oh, holy shit.
Yeah, he kills Lucy with the gun. He could have killed Panacea and Taylor, but he doesn't. Taylor later suspects that he wants to torture her by killing all her friends in front of her eyes and all her people, which is very possible. My favorite little modification now is that he laughs with his little mouth. He like clacks his mouth like a nutcracker to do like a taunting laugh.
Yeah, he's got to he's got to taunt them a little bit, and then this actually ends up serving a practical purpose in battle too.
Indeed. Mannequin's mannerisms and the fact like he's the only one that we've really fought, and we fought him twice now, so he's probably gonna end up being one of the more memorable of the 9 for me. It's just because he gets the most action time as far as actually doing things.
I think that's fair.
At least that's how it is so far. It'll change pretty soon, I feel like, where I ended. But he basically stabs who did he stab? Was it one of the dogs? Or one of the people. He basically stabs someone with a knife that has a deadline for bitch to do her own modifications, which is his traditional task for his tributes.
Yeah, and like, man, rereading this, the way he drops into the scene is kind of terrifying.
Very sudden.
Taylor's just talking to Panacea, and like he had been up on the roof, and he grabs her neck and then like drops down like a counterweight, pulling her up by her neck.
Yeah.
Like,
and she's just he leaves her hanging there for a while. And when I was listening to this, I was on my way to groceries. So just like there like a 10 seconds pass, I'm like, "Wait, what is happening now?" Like he just came out of nowhere. It was very mannequin like. One thing that's worth noting is that he can sense the silk webs now, which he couldn't before. So he's made some modification to his sensing systems that we still haven't really gotten a confirmation of. All we know is that he can sense the webs now, probably also blood, if I had to guess.
I think it's a very Tinker thing to do to
Hard
Taylor.
counters.
tailor your kit to who you're
Yeah.
fighting.
Yeah. You switch out your deck to have the cards that counter what you just lost to,
There you go.
or you ban Nasus because you just lost to him until you stop banning him.
Of course.
Uh, Forget all that though. We got Snare Interlude 1 because the audiobook decided to actually include the interludes as interludes now. That's
Yeah.
throwing me off. Uh,
Well, the interludes, I think the audiobook does it in the same order that they were published.
okay, so it's been in release order. The interludes has just always
Yeah.
been at the ends, I guess.
Yeah, they're usually between arcs rather than between individual chapters.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's not that weird then. The girl reading these has a really thick accent. It's pretty cute, but I will say at the end when you finish one of the audiobooks, they're like, "Hey, this is a story by J.C. McCree. If you want to support us, come to parahumans.org." Uh, and then they're playing music, but she does the mixing weird to where the music just deafens me each time. I just wanted to bring that up. She leaves the music very loud. Um, Whenever I make my Worm Netflix TV show, that opening music is going to be the opening for the show. So
There you go.
look forward to that. Snare Interlude 1 is an Aisha interlude. It starts with her shitty mom being shitty, and I'm like, oh man, this is a terrible flashback. And then you realize, wait, this is present day.
Yeah.
I feel like that was maybe intentional even.
And we see Aisha just kind of reflecting on the situation her mom is in and kind of exercising her power with, like taking drugs away from her mom, and her mom just
Not
doesn't even
noticing.
realize what happened.
She was yelling at her mom even though it's not doing anything, and she's too afraid to actually confront her mom, which is really interesting. I'm gonna say Aisha is a really well written character in the sense to where I forget she exists, which is super intentional. I feel like.
Yeah, and I think especially like whenever she was first introduced to the story, this happens a lot. Like when the Undersiders did their whole raid, like on the ward's headquarters and
Right.
dragged there,
God, that feels like forever ago.
like Aisha would be mentioned like maybe once per chapter,
Exactly.
and Taylor's like, "Oh God, I forgot she existed."
Yeah. And we get some more. Like this is a chapter where we finally get like the extent of her powers, which is really interesting. To the point where like she can be there. People can't feel her if they touch her. They said.
Or it's
That's
it's
a big
more like-
deal.
it's even crazier because it's like people in a technical sense they do feel things if she touches them. It's just it doesn't make it into long-term or even short-term memory.
So they can feel it, but it's forgotten very quickly. Then
Yeah.
so this whole chapter she's basically mad. She got told to buzz off while the Undersiders are actually working because Gru's being an overprotective brother. She doesn't want to be at home, so she's like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna look around, gonna check some police radars, gonna go find the 9. Hey, I found the 9.
Yeah, and I can't really blame Gru for telling his sister to not go after the 9 scariest people on the planet.
Yeah, but he's doing it himself, and she's useful, and lives are at stake. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, she is like, screw you, I'm gonna go kill them
And you
myself.
know her. You know she's gonna act out as a result.
Oh yeah, because yeah, she's the
Rebellious type.
she's the rebellious type.
Maybe you forgot that. I like how she blames her mother for a shitty memory just because her mother. You could tell that like she started doing drugs after Brian was born. She even mentions like, "Oh, Brian's fine. He has no memory issues. You're gonna have a super messed up baby because you're just being such a terrible mom." So hey, that's kind of a rough situation. I feel really bad. I didn't realize it was still like this. For some reason, I thought like when Brian he says that he beat up his mom's boyfriend, I would have thought that like she would have turned a new leaf since then, since his trigger time. It's apparently only gotten worse.
Yeah,
From
and
what
it
we
kind of
can
makes kind of what makes me it makes me want his situation to turn out, because the whole reason he's doing the things he does is so he can get custody of his sister and
Right.
give
Oh,
her a life.
I completely forgot about those interactions with the custody service lady.
Yeah, but then at the same time, his method of getting custody is and getting money is them two being
Big
super.
crimes.
So yeah, I don't know. You judge what the best
Yeah.
best choice is.
Well, the best choice probably wasn't chasing down the merchant, death scene, and finding the nine. But this was a really interesting scene where I was like, she's really not being noticed right now. She is walking around and looking at all of the nine there, which I believe were Bonesaw, Crawler, Burnscar, Shatterbird, and Cherish.
I think Cherish and Jack came in like at the end of the chapter.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, she just walked into a room of some of the most dangerous people in the world, and
Is completely unnoticed, and she
yeah,
just thinks, if I just kill one of them, if I just bring myself to do it, I could really be saving the situation right now. Brian doesn't want me in it, but hey, I'm gonna be the hero right now, but also saving multiple lives. And she's just looking around, just like, which, if I can bring up the bravery to do it, which one of you would I kill?
yeah. I thought this was kind of interesting because from the moment the nine were introduced, I was like, what do these people do when they're not out killing people? And they're just kind of like laying around on the couch, like listening to music and reading a book and stuff like that.
The fact that Crawler fits in buildings is the shocker here.
Yeah, I wonder. Like, I think the thickest part of his body would be like 10 feet deep,
Which is what you said, which I was like, I don't think Wild Bo thought that one through.
I would need to
Logistically.
see I would need to see the apartment.
Yeah, I gotta see these blueprints. She decides Bonesaw should die because she's actively torturing someone.
Yeah,
She's doing it for
she's
fun.
not sure about it for a moment, but then she sees the man on the table. She's like,
Yeah,
"Well,
sorry.
sorry, kid. Sorry, kid."
I really loved that reaction. I think it was literally sorry, kid.
Yeah, like she was like really kind of hesitating on it, and then from the moment she saw that guy, she's like, "Nope, it's no, we're
I
doing it."
really appreciate that because honestly, like, fuck these people.
Yeah, like after that, she just had no hesitation.
And I mean, you're
And
not gonna get caught. And she kills Bonesaw, and I was like, Bradley, what the fuck? She just
Yeah.
killed Bonesaw.
I forgot that she actually said "sorry, kid" out loud. I thought she just thought it in her head. She totally said it.
Yeah, but she actually didn't kill Bonesaw because apparently she's modified every one of the nine or something.
Oh
And
yeah,
they can all just survive wounds.
she
Holy
is
shit!
the medical tinker.
And you told me, as word of God, that she's been with the crew for some of the longest.
She has been with the crew for an uncharacteristically long amount of time. I mostly say that because the crew has very high turnover. Like, lasting more than several months is probably impressive. Bonesaw would have been with the group, I think, for a few years, but in the grand scheme of the nine, she's actually been with it for a very short amount of time.
Okay, I see. I wonder if Jack's always been there. I can't imagine these people getting along without Chad Slash. But also,
Yeah, I could spoil it if I wanted to, but I don't know. If
will I find out very clearly?
You will find out very clearly.
Fantastic. I wonder if Jack was in the room, could she have killed him? Or is this like modification Bonesaw does even to like the most normal dude in the room? Is it so severe that it would save him? Because if she killed Jack right there, she would be averting all the tragedies. But of course, he wasn't even in the room, so we won't even get to find out that answer.
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that.
Damn you, Bradley. Cherish finds her at the end, kind of. She can sense that she's kind of there through emotions, but she's just kind of yelling into the air. She's like turning herself
she's like really
invisible, and like Aisha is yelling. She's like, "Oh, I'm here. I'm not invisible," and like it doesn't work.
Yeah, she's like, I think she's was really hoping that I think Aisha didn't want to actually turn off her power on the off chance Jack sensed her. So she's like, maybe there's a chance this girl will know what I'm saying even if I have my power on, because she was able to
she
sense
can
me.
kind of feel me. Yeah, that makes sense. Can Jack just sense people? Is that a thing?
Well, I mean, I think she didn't want to turn off her power because Jack would maybe see or hear her.
Fair. You don't want to fuck with the Chad.
You don't want to fuck with him.
Cherish ends up making a deal with Aisha that we will find out at a later date.
Yeah, and then remember how well it worked out the last time she tried to betray the Nine?
Well, Jack specified she would 100% die at the end of this mission. Like, it was like, oh, I'm going to kill her.
Cherish, who would not survive her state of Brockton.
That's one of my favorite lines so far in Worm. It's just dropped so matter-of-factly.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, she's even more screwed now. And I have high ideas that Jack won't die here because otherwise you lose a huge sense of tension. So yeah, yeah, that was a really fun interlude. Aisha's your favorite character, so I'm starting to feel a little bit more. She's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I just love the whole concept of this chapter. Is I'm just gonna walk up to the scariest person in the world and stab her in the throat, and it didn't work. I'm gonna leave.
That's such a cool power. So I feel like I had something else to say, but it's gone now. Okay, so we basically got a couple of interruptions now to the story. We got a Protectorate member who's going to help 2 of the 9, and then we have Aisha, who is teaming up with one of the 9. So the shogi board's getting complicated. It's becoming Chinese checkers very quickly. But that's pretty interesting. I can't wait to see how it all unfolds. But there's one more chapter I read that we should swiftly move along to, because even when I reduce my chapter intake, we're still going to go over 40 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Chapter 13.3, big action chapter. Chasing down Mannequin, or Manny as I write him down for sake of speed. He starts releasing gas, which is a new weapon that he's brought this time. He releases it from his mouth, which is why he's like doing weird mouth movements and not moving as much when he's releasing his gas. The gas is very deadly. Taylor is able to use her bugs to kind of sense the gas out, but the rest of the crew has to be a little more careful about it.
Yeah, and it kind of opens the way for some cool tactics later on in the fight.
Yeah. So Taylor's doing her usual big things in the middle of battle, which I'm mixed on, but at least this time she's not pretending to be bleeding out on the ground in a tense moment. And it was a lot less thinking this time, so I appreciated that.
Yeah, I like that she kind of goes through like the possibilities here, because she kind of has the same thought that the reader might have had. Like, he obviously could have shot us, so like why would he not shoot us? Like, he had to have a reason. And then it's like she kind of goes through the possibilities. It's like, wait a minute,
the gas is flammable, so that's why he's not shooting.
She
bold move on his part, though. I feel like flammable gas is always a dangerous play, but I really like this sequence here where he's about to shoot Brian. She jumps out of the way. He doesn't shoot, and he just redirects to where Brian got pushed to, and then Taylor looks at him and he just shrugs and shoots anyways. Just the imagery of him going like, fuck it, and then igniting the gas is hilarious to me.
I imagine this being like a very comedic moment, actually.
Yeah, because like it's really tense because she's gonna stop Brian from getting shot.
I just want to see her like heroic dive, like dragged out over 20 seconds, and it has the sad music, and then she just lands on the ground. American's like, oh.
And then he just moves the gun slightly to the right, shrugs, and blows them all up. The explosion is not that serious, but Mannequin is knocked down to the ground. And much like the first time they fought, where a random guy became a huge fucking hero and just started whipping his head around, Bastard comes in. Also, this whole chapter, she's kind of like controlling Bastard, which is pretty cute. I don't think Bitch is going to appreciate this very much.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
I also very much think that Bastard's going to imprint on Taylor, so later on, Bitch is going to be like, oh, kill Taylor, and Bastard's not going to do it.
But I love her.
But I love her. Bastard just kind of whips Mannequin all around. Taylor's trying to help, but he's just knocking him into Taylor and Brian.
Jesus.
Just all sorts of chaos. I kind of missed something here, like where they ignite him again, but this time it works.
Uh,
Or it doesn't work, but it knocks him out even more.
yeah, I don't typically take notes on the combat itself, so I wouldn't know.
This was a point where like I just missed it in the audiobook and I didn't have a chance to go back. But they somehow find a way to ignite him again. I think they get some shit into his chains and it's flammable. And then he's on the ground. And I really like this finale portion where he's kind of knocked out more than usual. Gru picks up this large cone-shaped rock. And they're all like, yeah, you know what? Let's fucking do this. Taylor doesn't really like say it that aggressively, but she doesn't stop it either. But bitch is like, kill him. Just do it.
Yeah, she's not happy.
Taylor's just like, don't aim for the head. There's nothing there if you're gonna do it.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, he killed Lucy, so
which is what I was mentioning. Like, she's not joining the 9. There's no way.
Here's the thing: you can kill all these people. You can give people fates worse than death, but you can't kill a dog. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Never kill dogs.
Araki. Yeah, and then right as they're about to do it, they get knocked out by a flame wave, and Burn Scar is there, and they're like, wait, that's illegal. And then she just kind of talks to Mannequin for a little bit, and they high-five each other, and she tags in, and now shit's really heating up.
That was great, Willard.
Thank you. I'll be here. I'll be here for the future podcast as well.
I wish she said that in the book.
Take that, you worm.
Things are really heating up, you worm.
That is a big raising of stakes because they're already pretty tired from this fight. Like, cause he caught him off guard. Gru has some like bullet splinters on his leg because of the shotguns. Taylor's doing all right. Bitch is just angry and down a dog. 2 dogs, maybe.
It was potentially 2 dogs.
It was unclear. One of them got gassed, and Taylor wasn't sure if he died.
It is unclear right now what happened to the second dog. But man, like, they've gone up against one member of the 9 right now, who is one of the weaker ones, and they're already reeling this hard. So it's like, man, how are we gonna? And then like they get 0 break between the first member and the second, so it's like, man, how are we gonna make it through all these rounds?
They do have one little ray of hope, and that's Genesis. I was gonna say Genesis is coming, but actually I forgot to mention she got wiped out like immediately as soon as they got to where Mannequin was when they were chasing him down. So
how's the gang gonna get out of this one?
Well, let me make a guess here. What could happen here? Burn Scar is coming. Labyrinth will show up because that seems thematically correct.
Oh yeah, because they're best friends in the whole world.
They're biffles. This group, I wish this group had more not tricksters, travelers. Because I think
they're very powerful.
It only has Genesis, right, in this group, and we didn't get to see her do shit.
Well, I guess we'll find out next time.
Oh, well, surprise! Who is Circus?
So Circus, she is kind of she's not really a member of a team. She's kind of a rogue.
Oh, I was so because she was in like a meeting in like chapter 1. I was very confused.
I think she showed up a few times. Like, I think there was like a fundraiser that happened back in like maybe Arc 6.
Yeah.
She was there, I think, when Coil initially revealed himself as the boss.
Mr. Zero.
Essentially, she kind of has a grab bag group of powers where she has like some small telekinesis. She has a hammer space that she keeps the sledgehammer in. And she has like insane agility. It's kind of she's very much a clown circusy power set.
All right, that's my guess. Circus is gonna come in. She's gonna pull out the fire hydrant from her pants, and Burn Scar can't possibly beat a fire hydrant.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, Worm is a realistic series.
There you go.
So no one dies in Worm, but I would actually count Lucy as the semi-relevant death right now.
Because, man, like, a member of the 9 killing one of Rachel's dogs is like
big news.
If I think if there was any uncertainty in her mind about whether she was going to join these people, I think that would probably make up her mind.
I'm super surprised Mannequin survived though. It would have been crazy if they killed one of the nine, but also like, man, this guy is getting out of so many situations. Very luckily. I mean, not luckily, of course. There's so many factors to why he can escape or can get help because the nine are fairly well organized despite how chaotic they are. I don't know, man. I don't know how like this is supposed to end next arc. There's so much that can happen.
I think you'll be pretty satisfied with how it ends.
I can only imagine it doesn't end in a way that will satisfy me. I feel like it'll be like a thing where like Jack gets bored or gets tricked, and then I feel like we're only gonna get to see 4 of the 9 or something. That's my guess.
I think you'll be surprised.
I fucking better be. I got some overarching thoughts here with that cauldron introduction from earlier.
Okay.
Oh God, we still went a long time. I cut the arc for half, and we still did. I feel like after this arc, I feel like there's so many arcs of Worm left, but I feel like Cauldron will be the next big villain, and then the Endbringers, and then Coil maybe somewhere in that mix, and then I picture like the final villain has to somehow be Eidolon because he reminds me of Dr. Manhattan, or it could be the Endbringers as the last one interchangeably. But I feel like
if we're gonna keep like escalating stakes and power, that would probably be the end result.
Well, I mean, he kicked Leviathan's ass and is a humanoid, so I feel like he'd be the biggest threat. But I don't feel like that's enough for 15 arcs. So like, what more could happen in this story if the 9 are being handled this arc? Like this feels like the finale to me.
I wonder what'll happen.
They're gonna go into Earth 2 for a filler arc.
Earth 2 Electric Boogaloo.
I knew it. All right, that's the Roundabout cast for today. I hope you enjoyed. Take that, you worms.
Everyone drink chocolate milk before you go to bed because it's delicious and it'll give you good sleeps. Unless you're lactose intolerant.
Then don't do it. I should buy some chocolate milk. It is genuinely very good.
Everyone should buy chocolate milk.
The Roundabout cast does endorse chocolate milk. Thank you.